Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Lack of Focus, episode 22. Thanks, Katie. I am your host, Ed Horne, and alongside me tonight, Kris. How's it going, my friend?
Good, thanks, Ed.
And you'll take note that that's all we have tonight. um, so we are playing Two Man Down tonight, and there are reasons for it, of course. Chad is recovering from a surgery, and as much as I tried to convince him to come onto the show tonight on drugs, I thought it would make a fantastic show. He vehemently disagreed with me. So, of course, all of our well wishes for Chad and his soon to be recovery. And of course, Sean had a work thing, and he's not going to be there. So you get Kris and myself, and if you're watching us on YouTube, you get the idea of the joke for the name of the show tonight for episode 22. We took a picture of a photograph of a black hole. Well, actually,
Yeah,
we took two, and we have one person to thank for that. Her name is Katie Bauman. She is a scientist that works at MIT, and she works on the Event Horizon team there. She wrote the algorithm in the end that actually allowed these photographs to be taken. So, in homage to her, our third cast member tonight is a black hole picture, not the one that everyone's seen. We're looking at Sagittarius A, which is the supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, but the one that everyone else has seen online, if you go to look it up, that's the one from Meier 87. You know, it's 55 million light years away. We decided to go with one closest to home, and the one
yeah,
that will eventually eat us. So we do have a
yeah.
sponsor for tonight's show, Kris. Of course, I'm going to lean on you to speak German for a moment.
I've still left up von Unersprechlichen Kulten, which is a game of cultish chaos by Uncle Mike's Worldwide Productions. It's a Cthulhu Mythos-based skirmish game, and it's really good fun. You should try it out. And if you buy the book, you'll see my name in the cover. So, yay, I love it.
Yeah, good job. All right, so tonight's show is a little bit abbreviated. Not only the fact that we're missing half the cast, but there's not a ton going on. Obviously, FFG is on their way as we record tonight. They are already at Star Wars Celebration. We anticipate hearing Wave 5 and, maybe a freaking trailer for Episode 9. That would be nice. So we have a
Yeah,
light show tonight. So what we're going to do, we're going to kind of, we do have things we can cover. They have updated the rules reference, and there's some interesting stuff in there, which we're going to cover in the main topic. So we're going to try to make this one a shorter episode.
so I
We
do want to
try.
clarify that we'll probably actually hit our normal target, but I still wouldn't be surprised if we go over 90 minutes, even with just the two of us. The
Wouldn't
original
surprise
goal
me.
was a 90-minute cast, so we'll see.
So, assuming that we do keep with a shorter show and it keeps as brief as I think it might be, we're going to try to do a bonus thing on the DiceHate Productions YouTube channel where Kris and I are going to play another game on Vassal. I'm going to try to run my 4-arc 1v list and see if there's any teeth to it. Now, Kris is going to be training for an event that we'll be talking about here lately. So, all of that and a lot more is going to be coming up right after this.
If you like codes, this game has codes. Just buy a code.
I painted mine green.
Then find a friend who also likes codes. Then you can fight codes.
I'm saying the spell.
Madness and death, so fun to play. You can fight codes every day. So if you like codes, we can play codes. Von Unersprechlichen Kulten.
Von Unausprechlichen Kulten, the game of cultish chaos. Despite what this video implies, this game should not be played by boys or girls under the age of 18. And probably not by human beings at all. Don't say we didn't warn you.
If you like codes, we can play codes. Von Unersprechlichen Kulten.
Okay.
All right, we are back, and in the flight deck, I've had nothing really going on. I did have Chad over to my house. We were going to be playing some D&D this weekend, but everyone bailed, so we ended up just watching Infinity War and BSing about Rick and Morty. So we had a good time before his surgery. So I don't have anything to cover. I will have hopefully something to cover after the show. But Kris, you've had some exciting news. There's an event that you found that you can actually make it to.
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting to be able to play in a hyperspace trial this season, but I'm off work this weekend, and I just assumed in my head that it was because Jill would be working and I'd be at home with the baby. But toddler now. She's definitely a toddler.
She is moving. She's mobile.
Yeah,
That makes her a toddler.
yeah, it's good. It's good. Definitely doesn't like not want to hold hands anymore and wanders around slowly in the wrong direction, and you gotta like shepherd her. It's good fun. Um, but it turns out that I'm not working because one of my co-workers wanted to run a Shadespire event, or a Night Vault event, I suppose. So a Warhammer Underworlds event, we'll say. And I thought, well, I don't need to come in if he's running that, so I just didn't put myself down in the schedule. So
That frees up a weekend.
yeah, and there happens to be a convoy heading out from Calgary to the Saskatoon regional, hyperspace trial.
I was just going to correct you. They're not regionals anymore.
No, the Saskatoon hyperspace trial at Dragon's Den in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. So I phoned up. They had 2 spaces left, so I managed to get my name on the list, and I'll be heading out to that. I did have the moment of panic of like, I wasn't planning on playing, so I haven't really been taking anything seriously. So after a brief conversation with Ed and the rest of the cast, it was like, just run your Vader double striker list, and that's what I'm going to do.
It's a good list.
It's more, I enjoy flying it, so that's all I need to. Apparently, it's time to breathe. My watch just said, "Thanks, watch." Oh,
I love it when that happens.
Shut up, watch. God. Theatre mode, yeah. No, I'm not editing that out. I'll just look like a buffoon.
Yeah, just keep going with it.
just pad her time. It's fine. We'll get to that 90-minute mark.
Podcast gold.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a painting commission I needed to get finished, which was eating up all of my weekend and practice time. So I wasn't going to get to like hammer a new list. I didn't want to then try and take a list that I was going to take too seriously and not enjoy the event. So one of the things I'll probably touch on when we record coming back from the event is like that competitive mindset and maybe touch on how it turns people into dicks, or maybe turns me into a dick. I don't know. So
especially at events like that, you do see some of the worst in people sometimes. Yeah. I've seen some of the best in people in those times as well.
I think I'm like have like schizophrenic tendencies of when I play. It's like, oh yeah, do what you want, man. Take that back. Yeah, change your dial. It's okay. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's cocked. It's okay. And then when I don't win, I get fucked off and like hate myself and like, look, dude, if you want to win, try. If you want to have fun, do that. They're mutually exclusive. So
that goes back to that whole debate of the fly casual thing. Now, of course, we have a mutual friend who, in the old days, in the original first run, Wave 1 World Championship, Doug Kenny, not necessarily coined a phrase because it's obviously a phrase from Star Wars, but he coined an attitude in the Star Wars X-Men community in the very early days of fly casual, which is basically translated to English, don't be a dick. It was, be kind, respectful from your opponent. Remember, you're both playing a game and trying to have fun. And if an argument comes into it, like it's a game of plastic spaceships, it's not worth getting angry over. And I always kind of carried that in my heart for the longest time until it gets abused. And then your casual, trying to have fun attitude gets used against you. And then you start getting into
but then the other person's not doing anything wrong though. So
no, you've opened the door for that. You've opened the invitation, and I agree with that. But there are certain limits, I think.
Yeah, and it's hard, and it's definitely an internal issue to me that if I try and take the game too seriously, I don't enjoy it as much, and it kind of like rolls on into the fact that there's a reason why I don't win that many like events. I'll place at things, but I don't really play in that many, and when I do, I don't want to do what I would have to do to win. I would rather just not, and just whatever, man. So yeah, we'll see. So I'm taking this list, and we spoke about it a lot. We'll go over it again after the event, I'm sure, but Vader, fire control system, afterburners, Duchess with crackshot, pure Sabak with crackshot, and Wampa.
It's a good list.
Yeah, it does what it does. It outputs damage. It's fun to fly. 2 strikers are really good fun. And I'm not editing that out either. It's okay.
I think that was my cat.
Yeah.
I apologize. My cat
Yes.
decided she wanted to join the show for a moment. I'm not sure why.
It's okay. Evie was like hugging my leg, and Jill was like, "Oh, you just have to take her downstairs and cast with her." So, no.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. But
I did try to rush for the mute button as soon as I heard it, but it was too late.
No, it's
A damn speed of sound thing.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. But yeah, so I've got an event tomorrow where I actually drive out. So we record on Thursday. We're actually recording on time, mainly because I can't record Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and I'm not doing another Monday night record, staying up
Ooh.
late.
No.
Record on Monday, stay up until I've finished the editing and the rendering and uploaded everything, because that's a killer.
Yep.
So,
Because we do have fans who care enough about the show who may have taken notice of the fact that we had a late show, and we're like, we apologize. It was a one-time thing. It did happen.
so there was one guy emailed us because it didn't drop correctly on the Patreon site when the Patreon one went up. It didn't auto-populate for some reason, so it didn't download on his app or whatever, which I'm not really 100% sure on. I know when he sent me a message, I checked all my stuff and it had come through, so maybe it was just a their end problem, because I didn't do anything different, so we'll see. Hopefully this show will be fine, and yeah, we'll be good.
So most of your flight deck is, I had a commission painting I had to get done really, really fast because I had an event this weekend. What were you painting at least? Because you did explain to us what you were painting.
My friend Cam, well, he's a repeat client, so I consider him a friend now. He's gave me 56 Blood and Plunder French sailors to paint. And yeah, turns out painting 56 models takes some time, especially when you just put off starting them because of stinking Frenchies. And
you have no interest in painting them, but I'm getting paid for it. I got to do it.
You know, if you're going to play a pirate game, you've got to either play pirates or the Royal Navy. Come on. Like, why would you want to play the French Navy?
I've never even heard of that game before.
It's pretty interesting. It's, again, 28mm skirmish pirate game. So sail around the Caribbean or different, maybe Indian Ocean, and board ships and fight people off your treasure islands and all of that stuff.
Do they have actual boats as part of the...
Yep. You can buy different size boats. Thankfully, he didn't give me a boat because I hate painting large models. But yeah, it was fine. I got them done. I think I posted on my Instagram a picture. I had 90-something minutes before he was going to be coming to pick them up, and I'd just finished the last wash on them. So
please be dry, please be dry, please be dry. Get the hair dryer out.
Oh, it was fine. I was in no doubt they'd be done at that point. But when I woke up, we actually put Evie in daycare on Tuesday so that I could have a full day painting them. When I woke up, I was still exhausted from the night before, so I'd stayed up a little bit later, and I was like, these are never going to get done. But I got it down to, I think I had 12 models left to paint, so I got them all done. Again, because they're all different as well. It's not like batch painting Space Marines, where you can, it's really easy. It's like, these 4 men are cannon crew, these 4 men are Marines, and they're all different sculpts and everything, and trying to make everyone the correct ethnicity for the sculpts and everything like that. So it was a slightly bigger project than I quoted for and expected, but it's done now. So yeah, fun.
Oh, congratulations! Good.
Yeah, and I suppose I did off mic. I suppose we were chatting. I am on an X-wing losing streak at the moment as well.
Yeah, you had mentioned you were saving it for podcast gold. So what do you got?
So one of my my friends has come back to a game. Terrence, he came to Worlds with me, and it's one of the, I'd say he was maybe the best player in Calgary. He quite modestly puts himself in the top 3. of which I'm not a part of, by the way.
Just for the record.
Just for a record, yeah. I would not consider myself in the top 3 in Calgary either. Terence, Daryl, and Patrick and Clay are pretty good. Although I suppose I could beat Clay. I'll put myself top 5 maybe.
There you go.
Top 10 definitely. Top 50 is pretty easy. You know, we only get 54 people to our regional last year, so I can put myself
so you're
in the top
definitely
50.
in there.
Yeah. Maybe I'd say I'm comfortably in the top 50 in Alberta. Yeah.
Ooh, there you go.
But so he gave me a shoeing with one of the lists. So let's start from my first loss. I can't remember if I spoke about it on the last show, but I was running my my droid Wat Tambor Vulture Swarm list, and I spoke through a game with a guy where I was like, we took it really slow and did a teaching game, kind of like when me, Sean, Ed, you and Chad were all on Vassal, and we were going
the whole way through it.
Yeah, so he was running a double silencer midnight list against my swarm, so it was like talking through. So basically, I got pretty annoyed that the week before he'd been talking about wanting to like practice for this upcoming regional and like get more competitive and take the game more seriously. So we were talking about it, and I've gone through like all this swarm does is fly in a given direction, pick one of the channels on the board, fly up it, and hope that you fly towards me, because it's all it can do. And then he turned his aces into it and landed at range 3 of me, and I was like, no, we're not fucking doing this. Rewind.
You know you're dead, right?
Yeah, right, start again. Take those dials back, change your moves. You know where I am now. Pick something different. We're not doing this. And then
because it's gonna be over real fast.
But yeah, it was like, and I felt bad because we were chatting and being social as we were going through like the first couple of turns, and like throwing rocks down, doing deploy. So I was still thinking. He evidently wasn't. Sorry, Will, you weren't thinking. It's fine. So we walked through it all, and obviously at the end of it, I lost that game. So that was the first loss for the Vulture Swarm. Then, rolling till last week, I played a game against Terence. He was running a Vader, Fell, and Duchess list. And
Good list.
he'd thrown all of the... It was my fault. It was supposed to be running the meal, but I didn't take my my Reaper for him to borrow. So he didn't have a Reaper, so he had to run something else. But he had like shield upgrade on Fell and stealth device and brilliant evasion on Vader. I was just like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Just stop. And it was like, this will be good. I was like, look, just because you're gonna beat me doesn't make it good. And then lo and behold, he refused to engage me. Obviously I can't stop the Vulture Swarm. At some point I end up on the other side of the table or after K turn and come back. So he waited and pounced. I got half points on Fell. I think I might have got some... I got points off different ships, but it was pretty academic. The ship I'd turned to try and swallow Vader down, he one-shotted. It was like a range 2 shot, and I just blanked out on my evade. So that was... At the time, I wasn't actually annoyed, but I was like, I'm fucked off at that. It's disappointing that now...
I have all these calculate tokens around that I could borrow, and no paint at all. I hate that.
But it wasn't even that. It was like, he just got 3 natural hits. I rolled blank, so my ship was dead. Like, yep, it's fine. It happens. But I was like, that's going to make the game trickier now, because Vader... It wasn't even that I was going to kill Vader or even damage him. I just needed to have something for him to contemplate and think about, which then he didn't have to. So I caught Fell. Could have probably should have killed him by the odds of a dice, but he limped off with 1 hit left. I got him the next turn with some good blocking and stuff. But again, at this, then I think between Duchess and Vader, we one-shotted two-shotted another one. So the exchange was like probably one ship too many in his favour, and it got down to an undamaged Vader and like a half-point Duchess against 3 ships, and I was like, the game's over now.
Was
Played
one of those 3 ships at least Watt?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He lasted to the end.
Yeah. Then we played another turn, and he popped another one. So it was Watt and somebody else, and Watt had taken like I think Watt was on 1 hull at this point. Yeah, so that was a shake hands. Let's just play a different game. So I finally had the game where the vultures died as quickly as I expected to in every game. Because in all of it, like when we played, they stick around for a couple of shots and are annoying. But
Yeah.
I had the one where it was just like, no, they're gone. Take them off. So
Yep. Anything that looks at them or breathes in their direction, they fall over.
yeah, definitely gave me a proper respect for playing against aces again, because I hadn't needed to worry about it for a while, of like how I would want to approach it and trying to figure out new openings, because I did the opening of how I would just play against anything, and obviously it doesn't work because I can't stall enough. So if I want to run that list, I need to think of a couple more openings for it. And then I played a game with my 2 arcs and Anakin, and that was playing against double infiltrator and 2 vultures. So that was Maul and Dooku. So Maul has got Hate and Senator Palpatine.
Yep.
Dooku's got Cloaking Device and Grievous, I think. And then 2 Initiative 1 vultures with energy shell charges.
Just out there, just to throw red dice around. That's a decent list. I like that.
It was good. I just messed it up, to be honest. One of the arcs, I deployed him fully forwards on the range 1 line, which meant that I couldn't hard 2 and fly along my base without clipping the gas cloud. So I probably should have done it anyway, but I decided to bank over the gas cloud and try and bring him in quicker. But that meant he was in range for opening volley. So in the first turn, I think I took like 7 damage or something on him. I was like, yeah, that's not good, but hey ho. And Anakin rolled 12 dice at a vulture before I killed it. So
even with force tokens, you still weren't able to.
So I had target lock. It was range 1, target lock, and 2 force charges. So I rolled 1 hit and 3 blanks. I re-rolled my blanks into 3 focuses. So I didn't have to. I chose to spend both my force to convert to 3 hits. He evaded 2 of them, just naturally. Didn't even have to spend calculates. So then I Talon rolled behind him. I left the stress, I think, but used the droid to give me an action. So I had target lock again and 1 force this time. Shot him again and didn't kill him. So I was like, okay, I've now lost an arc and still haven't killed a vulture. So I'm like, I've got half points off your 24-point ship. So I've got my 12 points. You've killed an arc. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. Yeah, so that one went downhill pretty quickly.
Those dice are fickle mistresses, let me tell you.
It was. I'm not blaming the dice. I said to him, it was a Friday night game. I said I should probably disengage Anakin here, but I went the 5 forwards to land at range 1 of a vulture, so I could just try and take it off the table. And then Anakin he had to kill it at that point. I'd committed, and I didn't. So then I had to try and kill it next turn, and I didn't. At that point, the 2 infiltrators are just having a party on the other side of the table, getting closer and closer to Anakin. He still can't kill these pissing vulture droids. So that went well. And then I played a game on Vassal in the Vassal League. Um,
Did you mention before that you were in that? I don't remember that.
I think I can't remember if we're off air or on
We
air, but
may have been
yeah,
off air, so yeah.
yeah. So I'm only in like the fifth division or whatever. I've never played it before, so I'm pretty low down in the standings. I've only managed to play 2 games on there now, and I won my first one. This one, so some of my friends who have all started wanting to practice on Vassal for this hyperspace trial. So I'd spoken to a guy. We're on my Discord and chatting, and was like, "Do you mind if like these are what people are watching and talking them through stuff?" So I was answering their questions as we were throwing rocks down, and I did my deployment and stuff. Then I did my opening moves and just landed on 2 rocks in the first move with the 2 strikers.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I was running the Vader striker 1 per list. And I was like, it was fine. I was quite happy to play it from that position. But he was like, no, let's take it back. Because he wanted to practice his list as well and was trying to get like meaningful data from it.
Like real practice as opposed to, oh, you're so sad.
So I was like, okay, I'll tell you what, if you want me to move for stuff, I'll concede. And then I'll take those moves back, do something different. And then at the end of the game, I'll concede so you get the win. So we rolled it back a little bit. I changed. Pure Savak stayed on the rock. Duchess, I rolled back, so she was clear. Got around, and then I cleaned up pretty well. It was in the end game. It was an undamaged Vader against 2 A-wings. So he was running the 6 A-wings, 6 resistance A's.
That's a cool list. I like that one.
Yeah, all with crack shot. I had 2 of them. He had 2 left, and I had Vader undamaged. So like we called it then. I conceded. We mapped out the next couple of turns, and I basically killed an A-wing a turn. So like I would have,
as Vader tends to do.
Yeah, they were all. One was down to 1 hit point. The other was down to 2 hull. So I wasn't overly concerned, but again, I conceded the game because my honor,
Yep. So while it is a loss in the book, you really, really did win that one.
Well, it's still part of my losing streak because again, you don't know if I'd have been on the rock and rolled damage and stuff, and my positioning would have been different and all of that kind of jazz. So whilst I won a game from a different end state, I didn't earn that end state, so it's fine.
Yep, no, I understand.
But yeah, it just brought home the pay attention. And I'm pretty confident had we been at a physical table, I would have been more careful with my deployment and actually seen, because it's the old Vassal conundrum of a different angle and not quite accepting the speed of the maneuvers and stuff. But yeah. And the other stupid mistake
you didn't do the paper rulers to say, oh, this is where I'm going to land. You didn't do that. That old chestnut.
I did a thing. So I convinced myself I was going to do a move with Wampa, barrel roll him, and then Pure Savak's aileron move and bank would all fit. Then my friends asked me a question, so I was answering that. Then I came back, focused with Wampa. Then Pure Savak's move bumped, so he flew from 1 rock, bumped with the aileron move, then landed on another rock which direct hitted me.
Oh,
and then he was sat on the rock, so he just shot him with like 3 A-wings and killed him. I was like, yep, deserved.
Well earned.
Yeah,
that's right. Sir.
So Pure Savak died without firing a shot.
Lovely.
Yeah, that was so bad. So bad. I was going to barrel roll him. I couldn't remember why, so I just focused. So.
Yeah, focus is key in those kind of games.
Yeah. Oh, well. But yeah, that's my flight deck. It's pretty. We've been talking for 25 minutes. See, we're easily going to make 90 minutes for this show.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely easy. All right, so we're supposed to roll in the news. The news, of course, for this segment is going to be extraordinarily abbreviated. As we mentioned in the opening, of course, FFG and all the folks there are at Star Wars Celebration right now, where I've not seen anything pop up, so they've not talked Wave 5 yet, although we know that that is going to be one of the things we're going to be talking about. And hopefully we'll get to see that damn trailer for Episode 9 at some point in time. I remember there being talk back in when the Super Bowl was happening in February. Oh, yeah, it's going to be at the Super Bowl, because it's... No. No. Oh, it's going to be this week. No, we don't even know the title. We saw we thought was a leaked movie poster. It very well may be. We don't know. No, have nothing. I'm actually really surprised how much this has been kept under wraps. But it's going to be coming sooner or later. So I am sort of looking forward to that. So the only thing we do have to talk about is going to be our main topic tonight, which is going to be the rules reference came out, and there is some interesting clarifications in there and some new rules. So that's the news. And I think that's going to do it for this segment. We're going to go ahead and roll into the main topic, which, of course, is the rules reference, and we'll close out the show with a whole bunch of listener questions right after this. All right, we're back, and in the main topic tonight, we're going to go over these brand new, shiny, off-the-printer rules reference that FFG printed today. So there is some interesting stuff, some clarifications, of course, and they've added remotes into the rules. So we're going to be covering a lot of stuff on remotes. So I'm literally got the document open in front of me. One of the first things that they cover is with a major one is going to be purple actions and exactly how they function. They do function pretty much how we thought they were going to. Actions have 3 difficulty levels, which are white, red, and purple. White, the least difficult, then red, then purple. So they're making purple actions the most difficult to pull off.
It's really difficult if you don't have force.
Right? Exactly. If you don't have a force, you can't do it. And again, it spending 1 force token to be able to do it. If 2 or more effects would alter the color of an action from its default color, i.g. treated as a red action, the action is treated as the most restricted of those colors. So that begs the question, if I have a red action and we have a card or an effect that says treated as a more difficult action, do they then bump up to purple actions?
So I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe everything at the moment references the colour that the action should be. So, for example, Paul Damron's ability is spend his charge to perform an action on his action bar, treating it as red.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought it was too, but that's why I thought it was interesting that they had that clarification.
Yeah, so it's probably future-proofing more than anything. I can't think of an example. One thing I did want to caveat with this is all under the actions heading, so piss off with your maneuver questions. Like, if I dial in a red turn and have a damaged engine, does the turn become purple? No, just fuck off.
No, this is under actions and actions alone.
Yeah.
Hey, there's quite a few rules lawyery questions. I always tend to see that. When you look through these, you can go, all right, some rules lawyer tried to pull something and they had to clarify it. We'll get to my personal favorite here in a moment. But all right, so moving down further down the list, what else do we have? Oh, here it is. We'll get right into it.
Yep. I know what we're going to cover. Are we on page 4?
We are on page 4.
Okay.
In
good.
magenta, in clear as day, a ship cannot attack a ship at range 0, even if the attack range would be range 1. I don't know who asked this question or why it was necessary, but unless you have a special ability that allows you to fire at range 0, that means they're touching. So the only way that I can really imagine this working is if you somehow manage to get like an angle where they're touching, but I could still do a range 1.
I can kind of show you, well, maybe the people at home, if I can get the camera to focus properly. But yeah, because the bases...
And this is why you're watching on YouTube, by the way, guys.
Yeah, so the arcs, I'll talk through it descriptively as well. So the cardboard on the base does not go fully to the left and fully to the right-hand side of the base. So therefore, you can have ships that are touching each other that are not... But actually, the arc isn't touching. So, if you measure range in arc for an attack. So
I want to know
the
the person that
range
asked this question. Seriously,
yeah, and you can get weird and wonderful ones where you could bump like that, where you've got the corner hitting. So the attack range would be range 1. So what this is saying is that when you are touching a ship, the attack range is considered to be range 0, even if the range of the attack would be range 1.
Yeah, if they're touching, they're touching.
But this gets even worse, Ed, and I've seen it already, of Major Rhymer can change the range of an attack for one of his ordnance, like missiles or torpedoes, to up or down by 1 within the range of 0 to 3. But people are now saying that if you choose to change the range to 0, Major Rhymer can't attack, because it doesn't say that he can attack at range 0. He can just have the range. The missile range could be 0, but because he's touching, this says you can't attack a ship at range 0. So people are now arguing that Major Rhymer's ability, if you change it to 0, still doesn't work. And I die a little inside, and it's like...
But it says that it can.
The
right on the card.
The problem is, they are not wrong. By the wording, a ship cannot attack a ship at range 0, even if the attack range would be range 1. So if you go the full Rules Royal route of this, like a ship, I forgot the A-Wing's name now, but we'll go Zeb. Zeb gives you the ability to attack a ship at range 0 and for them to attack you. That wording is specific, that it allows you to attack. Major Rhymer's wording is not specific. It allows you to change the range of the attack to a range of 0 to 3, but it never specifically gives you permission to perform that attack. So there's no, according to them, there's no opportunity for a golden rule of cards trumping rules reference to kick in, because it's not referenced.
But it is referenced by the range.
Yeah. Again, you're right. I'm right. They're wrong, but are also right. And I personally will be telling people at my events that yes, Major Rhymer's ability, if you select range 0, does something. That's why it's written on the card.
Right.
But not every TO is me. Unfortunately, some would rather have drama. I don't know. Like, oh, the rules are ambiguous. Oh, we can't. How can you know FFG intended that?
Because they wrote 0 on the card. That's how you know they intended that.
Just kill me.
If they didn't want that to happen, they would have wrote range 1 full stop.
Yeah, but there we go. Yeah, so it's even more rules lawyery that it was brought in to address a single and this is another thing that people fail to comprehend. It's like FFG probably don't want to waste man hours, which is equal to money. So FFG don't want to waste money just inserting rules for no reason. So you have to trace back the reason of why this rule came in. If the reason was to say, screw you, Major Rhymer, you don't work anymore, there's a section on page 1 for errating cards. So they could have just changed Major Rhymer to read a range 1 to 3. They didn't. They obviously brought it in to address a corner case of if you are touching a ship but the range in arc is greater than 0. And yeah, I'm not saying it isn't worded badly, but just grow up. Push, right?
Like, I don't... So you take a rule that was in place that they wrote to correct a rules lowering situation, and it opens up a new rules lowering situation. They need to be degrees in rules lowering. I'm just saying, some people have master's degrees in it at this juncture.
I don't understand what people get. This is me like reaching out emotionally to. I don't know what you gain. Just why? What do you sleep better at night if Major Rhymer doesn't get used now because you've just ruled that it's it's the Overseer Yishin ability, like the Mining Guild tie thing all over again. Of by the wording of the card, it doesn't work. It's like, what about if someone wanted to use oh,
I often
It-
wonder,
it-
like, so did a situation happen somewhere where they were going to lose a game and said, no, the rule reads this way, this doesn't work, I win, you lose? Because, like, beyond that, digging through the rules to find these weird wordings to, like, okay, if I do X plus 1, X plus 2, it comes out to 42, and it's really 4. I don't understand
do you
the
want to
mental.
know what it is? What
I'd
leads
love
to
to
all
know,
it?
because I don't
So
know what
it,
the purpose for the mental
it
gymnastics
it's
are.
it's Reddit karma and Facebook likes and FFG forum thumbs up and your forum score or whatever. It's like if people like you pointing at FFG and laughing, oh look, they wrote a bad rule, it's ambiguous, and I amazing because I've had fuck off and die, you fucking scumbag. I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire.
No, Chris, tell me how you really feel.
I don't mind a heated like rules debate about something that actually matters, but no one's gonna take Rhymer anyway. It's the old Chris Brown thing of do what you want on the bottom tables, man. I don't give a fuck. But
What is it? What was it? The rule that you came up with? It was the group there. If it's going to cause a dumpster fire,
yeah,
or
you've got it.
don't choose the dumpster fire.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I just I die a little inside when people argue. What was it? I'm gonna have to find it now. Oh man, it was on the. Part of my problem, obviously, is that I moderate and run the Facebook X-Wing Rules questions group, so I see a lot of questions. Normally a Sunday, I spend at least 2 hours every Sunday curating that Facebook page, which is a lot
Lovingly,
of time. No,
gently.
not lovingly, but it's like I'll close the threads once they're like specifically answered. I'll add it. Because people don't show their work, so I'll go and find all the images and post them up because I want it to be a resource for people to be able to use. So I'd never delete a question. I'll leave the question up. I might close it, but I'll never like close it with a yes or no answer. I make sure it's explained as to the best of my ability, or whoever else is trying to answer it. And it takes a lot of time, but there was it was okay. This is a good one. It's not a good one at all, but it's fucking annoying as shit. If you're playing a first order versus first order matchup, and you choose to deliberately fly your quick draw over a rock, so that you can lose a shield. So you're deliberately going to fly over a rock in the hope that you damage yourself, so you can lose a shield, so that you can shoot at your enemy, at your opponent's null, to do a minimum of 2 hits to take it through shields and deal a damage card, so that null's initiative drops from 7 to 0. We're in the activation phase, we're at initiative 6. So the step for moving at initiative 0 is passed, but null's now changed from 7 to 0. So what happens? And I was like, it's unknowable. No one knows. This is not covered. There is no rules for this. I would suggest you do what you do if you just honestly missed moving a ship, and that is move null next. And someone commented, okay, so the corner case for this then is that I could coordinate a barrel roll onto null to land on a proxy mine to damage myself so that I could move him first so that I could block. I was like, yeah. Okay.
Whoa.
So what you'd have to... One, you have to waste a coordinate to do this, so you're already paying a cost for this benefit. But if you need null to move at 0 instead of 7, and you're willing to use an Upsilon's coordinate to coordinate onto null to barrel roll onto a proximity mine. One, your opponent has to have dropped that proximity mine because first order doesn't have anything that can carry it.
Right.
So they have to have put a proxy mine in a position for null to barrel roll onto. Right? And then you have
So far, so good.
Yeah, you have to have dialed in the move that after you barrel roll will allow you to block from the new position that you knew you were going to have to do before you barrel rolled onto a proxy mine that wasn't there yet, necessarily.
Uh-huh.
And then you don't have a barrel roll once you finish the move because you've used it this turn already. And if you barrel roll onto the thing and you've still got a shield, you might roll blanks. So you'd still be at initiative 7 and just lose a shield. If you've lost the shield so it's guaranteed to take you into hull damage, it might actually just kill you if you roll all hits.
Yep.
So either one of those three scenarios still screws up your plan. Then if you pull all of that off and you manage to do it and they block, it's like, yeah, your opponent had agency in that because they put the proxy mine in there, so good on you. And it's like, when you're going to argue that much of a corner case to not just fucking move null after quick draw shot compared to, oh, well, null now can't move, or null stays at initiative 7 until after the activation phase. Like,
So I'm a little confused on this one. So I realize this is not the rules reference, but now I'm kind of in deep on this one.
Oh yeah, we're down the rabbit hole.
So null's at initiative 7. How did it not already move?
So remember, you moved from 0 up to 7. So quick
Okay,
draw
I
got,
see where we're, okay.
quick draw got to shoot at initiative 6 in the activation phase because she ran over a rock.
Okay, all right, now I've got it now.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was 7 at the start, has put damage on it, now it's dropped down to 0. When does null move?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's like there is no correct answer, but your options are null doesn't move, which leads to a broken game state.
Yeah.
Because it's in the rules reference that the activation phase all ships move. So I would personally discount that as an option because it's in the rules that all the ships have to move.
Right.
But people
people
argued for it anyway. Yeah. So it's fine. So then you're left with, well, it either moves next because you can't physically travel through time. The Vulcan Science Directorate has proven that time travel is impossible. So, you can't move through time and move null at initiative 0. So that leaves moving at initiative 7 or moving next.
So correct me if I'm wrong, and I granted, again, we're old and crotchety, we go all the way back to first edition, but I thought they'd already solved this one in that whenever that sequence starts, because there were cards back in the old damage decks where pilot skill would drop to 0.
Yep.
This is not the first time a scenario like this could have potentially happened. And if I'm not mistaken,
that's all first edition, which is a different game.
I know, and you're right, but I'm curious, just pulling back from the old rules just a hair, my understanding was that whatever the game state was at the start of that phase, it played out at that phase.
So I feel like that's a perfectly valid option. There is not, if you did that, that's fine. Again,
I mean, obviously I don't think there's anything written down because there's obviously some tension in this one, but if the phase starts and that pilot is at initiative 7, even though damage has happened, which would drop it down to 0, it was 7 when the phase started.
So it's the old Tel Travera thing from first edition, where if they had the initiative 0 crit and then Tel died and came back, as it missed its chance to fire.
I remember that one now.
So
and how did they rule that one, by the way?
Don't care. It's first edition. It's not relevant. I believe that Tel didn't get to fire. I believe. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, feel free to post in the comments or whatever. But I believe that was if Tel had an initiative 0 crit, died before it, and then came back. So it was back to, I'll say pilot skill 7, but it was realistically probably pilot skill 9 because you had veteran instincts on there.
Yeah,
that you didn't get to fire because initiative 9, pilot skill 9, step had passed.
See, that's a first. We're going, oh wait, we screwed up the old version. We're getting used to this second edition thing.
Yeah. But no, so stuff like that, when there isn't a correct answer, you pick the thing that breaks a game the least.
Right, exactly.
All right, so I would want to reward the first order player for the risk of flying over a rock, taking damage on its own ship, rolling the attack dice, the no failing a defense roll. So I would drop the initiative then, and it would move next in line. So unless there
See,
was
for me,
another,
that breaks the game state, though. That's why I think that would have to be. That's why it because if you, well, yeah, because it breaks the game state in that juncture, in my opinion. Because if it's initiative 0, it should have moved before.
but so what would you do if the ship was initiative 0? And so what did you used to do when you had that crit and forgot?
Well, we
You
used to
just
play casual. You'd
you
still
just move them next.
right.
So, again, there is no correct answer.
Hmm.
But my
Interesting.
my original point on this was, fuck off, I don't care. Come and ask me this question in a tournament when it happens, and I'll tell you then, because you're just wasting mental energy, because
Yep.
it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right? If that sequence of events is needed for you to win a game, fly better.
If it's down to this weird corner case, yeah.
Anyway,
All right, we spent
I think
way more time on that one than I thought we were going to.
yeah. Devices.
Relocating devices, they updated because the ability to relocate a device did not exist before, but it's pretty much how you would think it would work.
Yeah.
What's the next one that I saw on the list here?
So there is a thing for this as well.
Oh god.
It's fine. We'll just touch on it here, and when we get to the next part, I'll go in a little bit more depth. But the thing they've added is they've added devices in. No, sorry, devices already existed.
Yes.
As in
okay, I know where we're
bombs
going.
and mines, but they added in relocate. So it's specifying that relocating something is picking it up and placing it somewhere, normally at the end of a template. But as we will see later, different things can happen. So to relocate a device, do the following: pick up and replace a device as described in the effects that relocated it. This can involve a template or might place a device at a ship's guides, our buzz droids. A device that relocates does not count as having moved through or overlapped obstacles. So this is saying that if you move a device along a template, and that template, sorry, you never move a device along a template, it relocates from one end to the other. And that's what it's saying. It doesn't count as having moved through or overlapped anything.
Okay, so that clears that.
So remember this wording here of it never counts as having moved through or overlapped an obstacle, because although this is obviously talking about when relocating a device, we will get there later.
All right, so the next one that I took note of that I thought was rather interesting was the check difficulty step has added strain tokens. Interesting ruling on this one. During this step, this is the check difficulty step in the maneuver phase. If the maneuver is red, the ship gains 1 stress token. If the maneuver is blue, the ship removes 1 stress token and 1 strain token. Yeah. So they've clarified that you can remove both, but only 1 of each. So if in some weird scenario you've ended up with 2 of each, they only clear 1 and 1.
Yeah.
They did clarify what. I'm sorry, go ahead.
They added in gas clouds into the obstacle section. Yeah.
Yep, that was the next thing I was going to say. And it just basically tells you if you overlap it, it performs the perform action step. Obstructed. They give the rules again on what a gas cloud does, and if you didn't already know, if at least one. Yeah. So it doesn't do the old double up like they used to.
As people argued that the gas clouds were going to do that, they worded it correctly in the rules reference guide. Get fucked.
Yeah, exactly. If at least one gas cloud obstructs an attack, the defender may change 1 blank result to an evade. So they clarify that one. And now the fun. Remotes.
Yay.
I feel like it would be on our old show if we sat down and read this verbatim, but I do feel that this requires some discussion.
Yeah.
So remotes are devices, take that word and note, that have an initiative, agility, and hull values and can be attacked. So there are specific rules for attacking, damaging, and using remotes. When attacking a remote can be declared as a defender, while attacking a remote that is treated as a ship with the following exceptions. Effects that refer to friendly ships do not apply. So that's
Del Mico.
good call. Yeah, there's a note. So Del
You
Mico.
couldn't use Del Mico to reroll an evade die on the remote because it isn't a friendly ship.
Correct. Effects that refer to enemy ships only apply to the remote if the attacker is the source of the effect. So Boba Fett.
Yep.
Doesn't get to pull off his trick with a remote. If a remote does not have a midway line.
Oh no, sorry. Boba Fett would trigger a reroll if it were at range 1. I think.
Only if the attacker is the source of that.
Yeah, I'm wrong. You're right. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't hear that often.
So no, you are right. I'm wrong. Yeah. No. Yeah. So let me quickly cover one because
sure.
We did have a rules question that pertains to this because we put out a post last night saying that we were going to be going through this. So if anyone had any rules questions, feel free to ask. And let me pull it up. Where have you gone? It was about outmaneuver triggering on remotes.
Ooh.
Timothy R. I probably mispronounced your last name there, sorry. G'day from Australia. G'day, mate.
G'day.
Here's one. Does outmaneuver work against a remote?
Yes.
So,
effects that refer to enemy ship only apply to a remote that the attacker is the source of the effect. The outmaneuver says...
While you perform a front arc attack, if you are not in the defender's firing arc, the defender rolls 1 fewer dice.
They're the defender.
So, look at your remote. So either the buzz droid, pardon me, either a buzz droid or the dank one or the dark eye probe droid. Are you in its firing arc?
It doesn't have one.
But so
does
are
it?
you?
Hold
are
on,
you?
I've got
no,
them there. I'm
they do
down.
not. They do not have one.
Right. Okay,
so are you in it?
No.
There you go. Stop thinking. Don't overthink it.
Okay, you had me going down to look at the tokens. I was like, wait, did I miss something? No, they don't have firing.
No, they don't. But so outmaneuver doesn't say if the defender has a firing arc. Are you in it? It asks, are you in an arc?
Right.
The answer is no. So it gets 1 fewer defense die.
Right, because technically all ships have 4 arcs. Not all of them have 4 firing arcs. So yeah. Okay. If a remote does not have a midway line, which none of them do, this is some of that future proofing we were talking about before, a ship cannot be in front of, behind, or flanking a remote. So any effects, what was the one that I was thinking off the top of my head that had specific rules for being in the rear, being in the front? Doesn't apply. You can't be in the front or the flank. Or have we heard the word flanking specifically in any rules? Because I thought that would jump.
Sinker.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
All of the arc abilities involve being in the flank.
Right. That's right. And an attack made against a remote can be obstructed, and range bonuses are equipped as normal or applied as normal. Pretty straightforward. Damaging remote's the most interesting one of these, I think. If a remote suffers 1 or more hit or crit damage, deal 1 face down damage card to it. If it has a number of damage cards greater than or equal to its hull, it is destroyed. After a remote is destroyed, remove it from the play area. If the attack occurred at the same initiative as the remote's initiative, it is removed after all effects at that initiative are resolved per simultaneous fire, meaning they can't take crits because it doesn't make sense for them to take crits. There are pilot crits. There are, they can't do hard turns.
So the interesting thing here is if they ever make a remote that has 2 hull.
That is a
It could
good.
take 17. If you roll a 17 dice attack at it,
They only take one.
and it blanks out, yeah, it takes one face down damage card. Oh,
I did put a hard emphasis on that one, by the way. They only take one face down damage card. So
obviously,
yes,
don't panic. They all have one hull at the moment.
at the
I'm
moment.
sure they can. If they release something with 3 hull on a remote, they could always change it.
Yeah, they can change this rule.
Yeah.
And using remotes, relatively simple. A remote activates during the activation phase and engages during the engagement phase, as per listed per initiative value, but only behaves as listed in its entry. Additionally, the following rules apply. A remote cannot perform actions or be assigned tokens except for locks.
I'm so happy about that. That last
no evades?
3
no
words.
Evades?
No, as in, it used to, the sentence, if you look at the pamphlet that comes in the pack, the sentence ends after it cannot be assigned tokens. So you can target lock it, but when you go to put the token down, your hand physically can't touch a table. The token just doesn't go there, so your lock would fail.
Oh, that's
But they fixed it and said, yeah, you can actually finish target locking it. It's because of the wording of a target lock. The token you assign simultaneously belongs to the ship that performed the lock, but is assigned to the target. Hence why, like, I believe Manaroo can still pass red tokens or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. A remote can be relocated, which we've discussed the reasons behind that. Some devices cause damage to remotes as described in their individual entries, underlined and everything. If a device does not state that it affects remotes, it does not affect remotes. Super interesting line. Do we have anything in the rules currently that affect remotes specifically?
Nope. So you can't. Your remote can land on a proxy mine and not set it off.
And not trigger it. Exactly. Yeah. So anything else you want to cover on that before we go any further into remotes?
No, we'll keep going.
Oh yeah, no, there's more fun stuff. They have finally worded for stupid people like myself what solitary really means. Boy, was this a 30-minute conversation about what the hell solitary means, but for the record, word for word, a squad cannot include more than one card of the same upgrade type with the solitary restriction. For example, since all tactical relays have the solitary restriction, no squad can include more than one tactical relay upgrade. End of sentence. Thank you so much for clearing that up, because guys like me could not get it through my head what it meant. Now I know.
That was a fun show.
That was a fun show. Now, that's not to say that there couldn't be a solitary of an additional type of upgrade, like a solitary modification, for example, or a solitary, what am I thinking? A solitary missile. I suppose you can go down that route if you wanted to. So again, more future-proofing for later on down the line for design space, but you can only have one solitary of one type. End of sentence. So no.
It's interesting to note that it's only currently all tactical relays have a solitary restriction.
Yeah.
So if they ever release one that doesn't, you can run that and one. If they released a solitary, as you say, modification, that doesn't stop you taking other modifications. It's just other modifications with a solitary keyword.
See episodes.
Don't overthink it.
See episodes like 3 or 4 episodes ago where I spent 45 minutes trying to get it through my thick head what it meant. They added solitaries, of course, to the limitations. The squad is restricted by the rules of limited cards and solitary cards, which we've just covered. They do declare in painstaking detail on what a strain token officially does. Interesting. Because I didn't think it was going to play out this way. So a ship strained while has at least one strain token. While strained, the ship defender rolls 1 fewer defense dice. This the strain token is red, just for all in case you didn't know. However, after a strained ship defends, it removes its strain token.
It removes 1 strain token.
One. Okay, yeah, 1 strain token. The other way, of course, for removing it, which we already discussed, which is by performing a blue maneuver. So after I've defended to remove a strain token, interesting line. Didn't expect to see that coming because most people were thinking you could throw those on and just drop them down to
So
almost.
one, they don't stack. So if
Yep.
you have 3 strain tokens, it doesn't -3 off your agility. It's -1.
Because it says
And
at
then one,
least
yeah,
one.
yeah. Then 1 comes away, and you've got 2 left. So it's still -1 for your next attack. So I think that's probably the better way to balance them. I think it being persistent would be
Problematic.
I think it would be fine. It would make strain a lot more valuable than it currently is.
Yeah, I still think it's a cool mechanic though. It's interesting. And I like it when they play with design space like that we haven't touched them before. I'm a huge fan.
I would have almost preferred it to say after a ship receives damage, whilst defending, it removes a strain token. Because I rolled triple blank on my attack. Oh well, I take my strain off then. Cheers.
Okay, I could see that.
But that's not what it says, so
No?
screw me.
So I am going to automatically retract a statement that I just said because we get to objects and objects which are defined as bombs and mines, for the record, and they've added when I'm looking at bomblet, for example, when this device detonates, each ship or remote at range 0 to 1 rolls 2 attack dice, and they did the same thing with proton bombs.
Yeah.
Proximity mines, nope. Seismic charges, yes. Counter nets, no.
So it's almost like I said proximity mine and was correct for a reason.
You read ahead. I looked at this too and didn't catch it. So as I'm scrolling down, I'm like, oh, that does say remote. So they give a list of what defines as obstacles, which of course the spare parts, loose cargoes, and gas clouds fall into that obstacle, and objects. Now this is interesting because we have a definition question on what is or is not an object, and currently on that we're looking at the remotes, which are going to be the buzz droids and the dark eye probe.
So I believe everything is an object. So obstacles are objects, remotes are me. Yeah, those fajitas are coming back on me. I cooked a nice tea, supper, dinner. I don't know.
Yeah, so did we. We went to a Japanese steakhouse for dinner tonight. I had the chicken teriyaki.
I made chicken and beef fajitas. There's a lack of focus tangent for you. Yep. So I'm a good housewife now. I cooked. So we call it tea. I cook tea for Jill when she gets in from work, and I stay home and look after the baby, and she doesn't beat me, and she gives me my
at least not that I'm allowed to admit to on camera.
She gives me my allowance to go and spend on things to make myself look pretty. Like I had a haircut today.
Look at you, nice and sharp. All right, now we're going to start getting to the mud here.
Yeah, so all 3 of those things are objects, but yeah, we're looking specifically at remotes.
Okay, so now I'm into the FAQ questions, unless you have anything else you want to get into.
So I'll come back to that thing we spoke about with overlapping. Okay. So a remote's never considered to be overlapping when it moves or when it relocates.
Correct.
But buzz droids specifically say after an enemy ship overlaps or moves through them, they relocate. Blah 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 blah. If doing so would cause it to overlap an object, it can't be placed, and then they blow up, doing 1 damage to each ship type thing. So they can't overlap because it says so in the rules. But they can overlap because it says so in the rules.
So card trumps.
Yes.
So the card specifically states on the buzz droid that it can.
So how to phrase this for I'll not say idiots. I'm gonna leave that in, so I did say it, but I'm being polite by not saying it. I don't know. I'm sure I can get this through.
For those those studying for the bar of rules learning,
they don't count as overlapping by what it said on page 9 or 14. I think it was page 9. I'm gonna have to scroll up and make sure I don't get this bit wrong, because everything I say would be irrelevant now. Yeah, page 9, I was sort of correct. A device that relocates does not count as moving through or overlapping obstacles. Okay? So it doesn't count as moving through or overlapping them. It still physically does. They don't ignore the space-time continuum and the laws of physics. The object would still be overlapping it, so the effect would happen for buzz droids. It's just that they wouldn't gain a stress token because it can't be assigned token. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Because it can't be assigned tokens.
Yeah.
Except locks.
So, sorry. That's it. They wouldn't roll a red die to see if they damage themselves on the asteroid because they wouldn't count as overlapping that asteroid for the purposes of the asteroid rules.
Right.
For the purpose of the buzz droid rules, it would count as overlapping because it specifically references if it overlaps, this thing happens.
Right. So the rules specific to the buzz droid
people
are under certain specific conditions.
Yeah, they're trying to make a bigger, again, everyone wants to get that Reddit karma and like, aren't FFG stupid? Fucking push the glasses up the nose and like, I think you'll find FFG can't write competitive rule sets. Fuck off and die. My life would be better if FFG could write a watertight rule. It wouldn't. You'd still be a fucking loser.
You'd still find something else wrong.
Yeah. Even if the rules were perfect, you'd still be a loser. Like, you'd win at X-Wing rules writing and still fail at life. Fuck, I'm a horrible person.
Only sometimes. That's why I love you. All right, FAQ questions, unless you've got something else.
No, we'll get fired into these. It's fun.
Okay,
fun.
So there's some of these are like, I don't want to go through every one of them in magenta because some of them are like kind of.
Some of them are definitely just like full stops moved around or stuff because like that range 3. Oh no, sorry, that's why. A lot of them are added in from the forum, the official rules forum thread. So we've seen them all for a while anyway.
Right.
So just cover anything you feel like, and we'll be fine.
The only one that was weird to me, does proximity mine when deployed overlapping a ship in the system space detonate immediately? Yes, of course it does. It's one of those, really? Really? The trick question one's my personal favorite, and I love their response to this one. When a ship moves through a proximity mine, and does the timing window for Sabine Wren occur before or after the ship has an opportunity to perform its action? Trick question. She only affects devices classified as bombs, not mines, and other devices, such as proximity mines, like it's specifically listed on the card.
Yeah. Read the fucking card. That's good. That's my favorite. I like FFG more and more every day.
This one was one of my favorites. Is on the dumb did someone really ask this question list. Does the wounded pilot damage card affect?
I was literally just chuckling inwardly at that one myself.
Does the wounded pilot damage card first affect after you perform an attack? And I'm going to read the card. After you perform an attack, roll 1 damage die on a hit or crit result, gain 1 stress token, resolve after you repair it. Because technically on the card, it says action repair. The short answer is no. The card is repaired and there's no effect to be resolved.
So after the action, you look at that card and you go, oh, where'd it go? There's no effect.
Right. Darn, it went away. I saw that one. Like, I laughed out loud when I read that. I'm like, really? Somebody actually asked that question. Okay.
So does something that would only be able to happen before I do this action happen after I do the action if the action means it can't happen after I do the action? No. Nah, mate, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Good. Thanks for trying.
Yeah.
Question. This is an engagement and attacking. When a ship is destroyed by a game effects triggered with the before engaging, does it still engage? Yes, because the game has already reached, and this is the one that I'm leaning back to on the null question.
Yeah.
Yes,
This is
because the
engagement
game.
phase only, though, so not activation phase. But you are
I
correct.
recognize that, but
Yeah.
they've recognized it for one phase. I can't imagine they would rule it differently in another phase. However, their answer is yes, because the game has already reached its initiative step. It is not removed until after all ships at that initiative have engaged, per the simultaneous fire rule.
Yeah. So one thing that this doesn't exactly relate to, but I can kind of tangent it into something I wanted to talk about anyway, is ships are destroyed once they receive damage cards equal to their hull value. A destroyed ship is not removed until the end of the initiative step for the initiative at which it was destroyed. Thereby, if you are shooting against a rebel squad that has big Starklighter in it, with your Vulture Droid Swarm that's all initiative 3, and you kill Biggs in the first shot, every shot you shoot at somebody else within range 1 of Biggs can get a damage soaked onto Biggs because he is still there. So Biggs can...
Yeah.
Just because he's dead doesn't mean his ability doesn't happen. Stop removing Biggs the moment he dies. Make sure you rub it in your opponent's nose.
And leave it on the table.
Yes.
I'm guilty of that too myself, so I can kind of see someone doing it. But technically,
people do it all the time.
It's dead. And I pick it up off the table. I've done that and forgot to take shots with ships like that.
It's a good habit to get into. Not like for Biggs, it's really pertinent because a lot of the power of the ability is tied into it still working when he's already dead.
Exactly.
Like, so Bruno, who does the Millennium Condor cast, has started doing recorded games or live streamed games, and he'd asked for a list to fly against a TIE Swarm, and I said, well, you try Bob's list. I think it was Kaelin's list that Bob stole, which was Wedge with Swarm Tactics. I think Bob would be the first to say that, so I'm not throwing him under a bus or anything.
Oh no, of course not.
But so it was Wedge with Swarm Tactics, Horne with Selfless, Veteran Turret Gunner and Ion, Biggs, and then ANU Wing with Leia to Tate if you want the Initiative 1 for blocking, or Initiative 2 to PS kill Initiative 1s. It doesn't really matter anymore. And I watched the game because I'd told him to use the list, trying to see how he did. And Biggs died, and then Wedge lost 2 shields to 2 shots that only did 1 damage. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Wedge could have been full health here. Because, oh look, Biggs will take that. Oh look, Biggs will hold that for you.
Yeah, he'll take that one too. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So if you're going to use Biggs and Selfless, it's still broken, but you have to use it properly.
Right, exactly. The person who asked this question is my personal hero. Can a ship use elusive to recover charges on other upgrades by fully executing red maneuvers? No. Elusive and other effects that refer to recharging only apply to the charges on that specific card, unless the effects explicitly states otherwise. Really?
So a good one. Okay, I say a good one. A question popped up on the rules, the X-Wing Rules Facebook group today, asking about Chopper and Elusive. So Chopper, Astromech can spend a charge off another card as an action to recover a shield. But it can't be a charge that recovers. And Elusive doesn't have the arrow, so it's a non-recurring charge. So Chopper can use his action to recover a shield by spending the elusive charge. Then the next turn you can perform a red maneuver, recover the elusive charge, and then so you can have infinite regen. All it means is that you have to do a red move every other turn and never get an action to mod your shots.
Yeah, that's all.
So it's absolutely terrible combo and you shouldn't use it. But yes, it works. Well done. It's still an absolutely terrible combo and you shouldn't use it.
Well, so that's one of the ones with Hate, for example. Hate's the only one that I thought of in this particular scenario because it specifically states that it can recharge a Force token. So if you were to take a Force user, for example, and a Force-sensitive crew card, you technically have...
see, you're falling into a trap.
Right,
okay.
So how...
No, wait, okay. So... How are force charges? How do they work? is the force charge on the crew separate to the force charges on the pilot?
No, because it says +1 to the pilot.
Yeah, so they all get pulled together.
Yeah.
So Hate isn't recharging the force charge off the crew. It's recharging the pool of force charges.
Right.
Force charges are pooled and assigned to a ship.
Whereas charge tokens are not.
Standard charges, I believe they are called, are specific to the card that they are on. So they're never pooled. That question comes up a lot.
Yeah. Another interesting one, and I thought this one was explicitly clear, but clearly I was wrong. Can a TIE Advance X1 that rolled an additional die from the advanced targeting computer spend the lock later in the attack? If it does, can it change the hit to a crit?
So, I like the answer to this question, and I like that they spell out how it works.
Yep.
But you don't have a lock. Of course you can't do it because you needed to have a lock.
You needed to have the lock to be able to do it, right?
Yeah.
So the answer to the question officially is, while performing an attack, the TIE Advance X1 can spend its target lock to re-roll one attack die after rolling one additional die. It can also change one hit to result to a crit and then spend the lock to re-roll a die. However, note that it cannot change a hit to a crit after spending the target lock, as it no longer has the defender locked.
Exactly.
Because we're going through individual phases through...
The interesting thing to note here is that the TIE X1 advanced targeting computer ability is not a May.
Yeah. Not everyone catches that. It's a must.
Yeah.
It's you do this.
Yeah. If you have them locked, one of your hits becomes a crit. So maybe reroll. If they've got selfless, you probably want to spend that lock rather than fire controlling to keep it. I'm thinking about on Vader, obviously.
Of course, right? Yeah, of course.
Because if you're trying to kill one specific thing, but do what you want, man.
Some of these are just, after being destroyed, can Death Rain to the TIE Bomber launch a device that it cannot normally be launched? No, why would it?
So,
is there a scenario where that's even in question?
So it's because of the wording for Deathfire. The wording for Deathfire's ability is that after it's destroyed, it may drop or launch a bomb or device. But dropping and launching devices doesn't inherently do anything like it used to in 1.0. It only does what it references on the card. So, for example, how do you drop a bomb?
In the system phase.
No, as in, what template do you use?
Oh, the two.
No, the correct answer is, I don't know what's the card say.
Well, okay, yeah, fair. Oh, yeah,
because all of the cards reference how they are dropped now.
Oh yeah, they do make that explicitly clear.
Yeah, so that's why people assume that the standard way to drop a bomb is the one straight template out the back, but that is incorrect. The standard way to drop a bomb is how it says you drop a bomb on the card that is the name of that bomb.
That's a good argument. Okay.
All
right. Did we miss any highlights that you wanted to hit on?
I think we can go into these rules questions.
Yeah. So we have specific questions that have been split out from listeners. The ones particularly pertaining to these rules, and then we'll in the end of the show, we'll hit other non-rules related questions.
So they didn't necessarily have to be just new questions. So we've got a Ved Foslo. Where it's asking which way does it work, and he gives some options. So I'm going to read out. Hell, these fajitas, man.
Please keep all of that in the show.
Ved Foslo, the ambitious engineer, is a TIE advanced pilot. It is effectively Juno Eclipse for you veterans of 1.0. While you execute a maneuver, you may execute a maneuver of the same bearing and difficulty of a speed 1 higher or lower instead. Okay. So he then asks if it works in one of these two ways. So option 1 is if the bearing and difficulty is the same, then you can change the speed up or down 1. Or is it option 2? You select your maneuver, then you can change the speed 1 up or down and treat it as the same difficulty as the selected maneuver. The answer, Patrick, is option 2.
Is it really now?
Yeah.
Read her rule again.
His. While you execute a maneuver, you may execute a maneuver of the same bearing and difficulty of a speed 1 higher or lower instead.
Okay.
So what this means is, effectively, it works like this. If I dial in the 2 hard turn, it is white. When I reveal the dial, I can choose to perform a 2 hard turn that is white, a 3 hard turn that is white, or a 1 hard turn that is white. What is actually asking is the other option would be that if I dial in a 2 bank, I'm gonna have to look at the dial here to make sure I don't get this wrong.
I'm pulling it up now.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I need a speed. In fact, I'll make it easy for myself. We'll call it a speed 3 straight. So if you dial in the speed 3 straight, that is blue. Okay. The speed 2 straight is also blue, but the speed 4 straight is white.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's asking is, if I dial in the 3 straight, because the 4 straight is white, does that mean I can't change it to a 4 straight? And he's got the ability back. You're not referencing the dial at all. For
Right.
when you go up or down, you are performing the move that you dialed in, either faster or slower by 1, if that makes sense.
Correct.
So if you do a 2 hard, gives you access.
Continue with your analogy. If you do a 3 straight blue.
Yeah, so you can do a 2 straight blue or a 4 straight blue.
Right.
You cannot do a 4 straight white.
Right. Because it's the same difficult. Okay, I must have misheard. I must not have
Maybe I.
No. It's probably my fault because we could sit here and talk about solitaire for another 45 minutes and probably still get it wrong. But that was kind of always my understanding of it. It was kind of like the reason why Juno Eclipse back in those days, and now this named pilot it was so cool. That's why it was one of my favorites. The only thing that stunk about her was how low her pilot skill was at the time, and now it's initiative 2.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait.
Initiative 4.
Thank you.
4.
I grabbed the wrong one.
Yeah. Okay, so that was Patrick. So hopefully that cleared that up for you, Patrick. And we'll go on to. I'm going to save that one. We'll do Paul LaRue. Did the rules reference get an update? Yeah, Paul, it did.
Sure did. Got done spending a lot of time on that.
Yeah. And what do you do when someone forgets to set the dial? What do you do when your dials are set and down and your opponent picks up your dial and looks at it while his dials are still in their hand?
Okay.
So, the correct answer is what you do, Paul, is you call a judge.
Yes.
If
it's a tournament.
Yeah.
If it's a friendly game, do whatever you want.
Yeah. I would personally, berate them quite a lot. And then, so yeah, well, we'll handle it from a casual side first, which I know is useless to you, Paul, and it's not what you're actually asking about. But from the casual side of it, unless I'm actually joking, I tell them to just do what they want. Just pick what you want, I don't care. If they forget to set the dial. If they pick my dial up and look at it, I probably pick it up, pretend to change it, and then put it back down, because that was the optimal move for me to pick, and that's why I picked it. But,
so I've bumped into this problem before.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, casual setting, I'm of the do whatever you want. It's a fun game. What difference does it make? So tournament wise, for me, if someone forgets to set a dial, I always use what used to be the old, and I think they're still in the current rules. So if I'm
it's
wrong,
not.
Okay, but what used to be the old rule was that if you had a red maneuver, If a ship was stressed and they accidentally dialed in a red maneuver and they obviously couldn't perform that red maneuver, the old rule stated that they just did a 2 straight. That did not clear anything. So in the event of a tournament, that's how I would suggest you rule it, but I'm not the TO. At that juncture, I'd be calling the TO. Kris, you're more TO. You could probably, I don't know how you would rule that one.
So for the first side of it, there's 2 schools of thought that I would be happy with. There's 3, I suppose. The one that I like the least is if they forget to set the dial, their opponent gets to set it, which I'm not a big fan of. Because
that used to be the rule.
Yeah,
that used to be the rule.
The reason I don't like that is because that puts the onus on. So if me and you are playing, Ed, and I mess up, in fact, no, it makes it easier. If you mess up because you're terrible at the game and just forget to set your dials like an absolute idiot, if I want to actually punish you,
you can be a dick and turn a hard 3 right off the board.
No, but then it's me punishing you.
Yep.
Not you punishing yourself. Then it puts the onus on me having been the bad guy, which should never happen. You shouldn't ever feel like I was a dick to you in the game.
Because I was never a big fan of that rule.
Yeah, because of the game rules, mate. So I don't like that as an option personally. The ones I do like...
I think just real quick to pause for a second. I think the spirit of that rule was to allow for the other player to go ahead and set your dial for whatever you wanted it to be. Because that was what the spirit of it was. What people did, and I have had done to me, is, here's a 3 hard right off the board, and either take you out of combat for 7 turns or literally fly your ship off the board.
Again, there's different reactions to it, but ultimately I don't like that. So we have what you brought up of the 2 white straight, but then you can potentially, and this argument is, in my opinion, is disingenuous. So I'll caveat that at the end once I've finished it. But you could potentially, now that they've gone there, I don't like the move I dialed in. I'm just going to tell them that I didn't set a dial because I like sleight of hand it or put it on the cards and knock it on the floor or something.
Not a fan of that either.
Yeah. So then you get the option of, if I cheat, I can always just do a 2 white straight. The reason why sorry, go on. I'll let you interject.
No, it's a complete side that you need to finish because otherwise I'm going to take you off on a tangent.
Yeah. So the reason why I don't ever like if I cheat as an argument and think it's disingenuous is, well, if they're going to just cheat, why are you bothering trying to come up with a rule? The rule can be, if they forget to set the dial, you take them outside and shoot them like the dog they are. But if they're going to cheat, like, look, this was the dial I set. You don't have to shoot me now. It's all okay. Because they'll cheat that rule somehow anyway. So,
question for you.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on players that put their dials on the ship cards which are off the board?
As long as... So I don't actually ask. I would be lying if I said that I did. But I basically enjoy consistency throughout the game. I've had it. The last time that it springs to mind was when I was playing against Will again, the guy who I said was terrible and turned his aces into me. We were doing. He was practicing quad phantoms, and I was running quad phantoms into him so we could practice a mirror. And we were running quad phantoms at each other, so there was lots of phantom dials. So I placed my dials next to each individual ship, and he placed his dials on his cards, so that we would always know which one was moving for what.
Makes sense.
No confusion.
And you know him, and you trust him, and you know he's not going to cheat his dials.
Yeah. I have no issue with that, and it's probably the easiest way to cheat, but if you want to cheat, just ask me at the start, and I'll probably say I'll just concede, it's fine.
That's a good way to start the game. I plan to cheat this game, just so you know. So my stance on this one, I have let one person get away with it. It's Chad, and Chad, that's how he plays. He has his dials on. I've grown used to it. I trust him. I know he is not cheating. I have seen way too many competitive tournaments of people picking up dials sitting at the edge of the table. Now, this goes way back in the day. And the first time I saw that happen, it was someone in a play group that I knew and went, I think I've played him before. I think I've played him in a tournament before. How do I know that he didn't do it to me? So I adopted the policy of when we start the game, if they start putting their dials back, I say, look, this is nothing personal to you. I'm not suggesting anything in any way, shape, or form. I prefer having the dials on the table because it leaves no ambiguity whatsoever on any manipulation on dials. I always mark my dials so that they are different. So even if they are in a mirror match, I can clearly identify my dials versus your dials. It's just one of those things, having them, because what's happening is you're trying to adjust your ship down on the table.
What I would interject with it, that specifically moves on to Paul's second question, or second part of the question.
Oh, by all means, yeah, we can get into there.
You are completely correct in doing that, but then if your opponent accidentally picks up your dial,
what do you do?
And looks at it, that's now your fault because they were used to placing all of their dials on their cards because that's how they stopped that from happening.
Yep,
so it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
And I've given you I've already, like I said, obviously jumped the gun a little by giving my solution. I wish I should grab one here. Do I have any dials floating around here? I always put markers.
It doesn't matter that they are entirely different because it will still happen. I've been playing Scum against Imperials, and my opponents picked my dial up and looked at it when one's orange and the other one's blue. Why? It's next to the two ships are at range one of each other. The dial's in between them. And he just picked it up and looked at it. I'm like, that's my dial.
I have my second caveat to answer that one. I personally, I will do it myself every single game before I even touch, because people do it all the time where they'll lay it down on the dial and then they'll think about it again, like, oh, I'm going to pick up this dial. I just want to make sure what maneuver I had. Now, again, referencing old rules, however, you need to ask. You just can't pick up a dial out of sequence. The only dial that you should be picking up is the ship you intend to move. If you intend to grab another dial as a player and a professional courtesy, you should be asking your opponent, is it okay if I look at this dial? I do it myself.
And the response should be no, because that's my dial.
Exactly.
So all of that is really good ways of preventing these things from happening.
And this is from experience. This is from going to dozens and dozens of tournaments and having it happen to me. This is what I've learned.
However, it will...
it'll still happen.
Yeah. There's lots of preventative measures for, like, people, like, crashing cars and things, and, like, speed limits, and lots of rules of the road. It still happens. People still speed, people still, like, undertake or drive in the passing lane, and all of this stuff. So you can have all of the best of intentions, but people will still mess it up for you.
I had the weirdest ruling that I felt so dirty about. So again, similar situation. I say that at the beginning of the game because you've got your dials back here, mine are here. I understand why you want to do it. It just keeps any ambiguity out, and I will always ask you before I touch a dial that is out of sequence. Get halfway through the game, picks up a dial, looks at my dial. So I called the judge on that event because I had no other choice. It was it wasn't a regional, but it was a store championship. I was in the top 8, and the judge ruled that I get to set his dials.
Oh, I would have thrown him off the table, man.
And I did. I felt dirty about it, but again, it put us back into that situation that I didn't like before. Yeah. But that was what the judge ruled. Now, that for me, it was like as soon as it happened, I was hands off. I wanted nothing to do with the decision-making process at that point. And explained to him at the beginning of the game, the player was like, yep, no, absolutely. I'll go with whatever the judge says. Judge says, you set his dials. Because he's now looked at your dial, because he hadn't even set his dials yet. Mine were already down.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Once you've set your dial and it is down, you getting to change that is not beneficial to you.
Nope.
So, there's two ways. It's happened once where it's been relatively... I wouldn't say it was heated, but I was annoyed about it. And I believe this is from memory, so I might be misremembering the exact situation. But it was something like... we talked through with my opponent. I was like, look, your options were you were either going to do a 1 hard or like a 3 straight or something. It was a choice between 2 moves were sensible. Everything else didn't really make sense. And it's like, now that you've seen my dial, if you know that the 3 is the right choice compared to a 1. So if you pick, like, you tell me which one you're picking and I'll change mine.
Yeah. See, for me, and I don't know if everyone else, for me, I always tend to occasionally take note to myself, this is the obvious choice of where I should go. I'm going to go the opposite way. And I'm going to pull the old crazy Ivan and go a completely different direction. I usually do it at least once or twice a game just to throw off my opponent as far as them guessing where I'm going to land. And that's always the time that happens, that they pick up that dial. So at that juncture, that element of surprise is gone.
Yeah.
And there's no way to reset that. There's no way to go back to that.
As a TO, it's extremely difficult because on a first offense of something that may have been honestly a mistake. So I'm going to ignore the forgets to set the dial because I think that the answer's vary so much. Like if they forgot to set a dial and it's the first ship to move, just do what you want. Like,
it doesn't matter.
Even I've had it where if I've got, it's more of a 1.0 story, but like if you're flying a big fat ship and you've only got one thing left that's moving at initiative 6, and they've got 2 ships left and only remember to set 1 dial, but they're both moving before you, just do what you want, man. It doesn't really matter. They've gained no extra information. Like, I literally played a game where I told my opponent, don't bother setting a dial, just move your ships, my dial's set. Because it doesn't matter what, like, going through the motions of placing your dial down and then revealing it is utterly irrelevant to me. Just pick your move and do it, I don't care.
Yeah.
But again, that's technically not within the rules because you have to place a dial, blah, blah, blah. But so on that one, it's hard, Paul. I don't really know exactly.
Unfortunately, if it's a tournament level, both of these answers are ask the TO.
So the other ruling I would say that I'm more inclined to go with at the moment is it's impossible to not set a dial. Because the dial doesn't vanish from existence. So when you look at the correct dial for the correct ship, there will be a maneuver on that dial.
So whatever the last maneuver or whatever it rolled to whenever it got pulled off the table?
Yep. That is what
Rando Calrissian with the dial.
That is where I would be leaning 90% of the time, with maybe 10% of a white 2 straight.
It's interesting to me that FFG
I don't think there's a dial anymore where it is misbalanced. I believe it used to be possible to place a hawk dial where it wasn't pointing at anything, but I don't believe that with the way that they're like
the white lines are in there now. No, you're right, because the shuttle used to have that same issue because there were so few maneuvers on the dial.
Yeah, but I believe they are actually lined. I have one here. So all of the maneuvers are actually lined off. So I would be 90% of the time you do what was last on the dial because that is what is on the correct dial.
That's an interesting ruling. I like that.
The 10% would be if it's on the line, do a 2 white straight and just walk away from the table. Because
it's interesting to me because these are issues that FFG has encountered before in competitive play, and I'm surprised that their tournament rules don't rehash old. Like this argument's universal throughout the game, whether it's first edition or second edition. They both have the same answer. So why not just translate those rules over?
Yeah. So and then
great question, Paul. Great question.
What do you do? So still need to do what do you do if your opponent looks at your dial? As a TO.
This Paul.
Yeah.
This Paul. Look at this one. Anyway, sorry.
Did you get the stuff off chat then?
I was just gonna say I'm holding my target locks in my hand. Oh boy, are these things sweet.
So if I were TOing an event and I was called over to a table and the opponent had looked at his dial, it would very much vary and depend upon the game state. Like, if it were a 1v1 ship in the end game with both ships on 1 health, there's a chance I give the person a game loss. Because, like, is that better or worse than letting the opponent pick the dial at that point? Because at least then I'm the bad guy, not their opponent. It's very, very difficult.
It's a tough one. I'd not want to be in that position.
No, and I would much rather, as a TO, that both players hated me, because that's what I'm there for.
And then blame it on me and not each other. Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's an end game, actually, the game can be decided upon this, that is probably the only time I'd go with a game loss. I would be tempted to... Well, I would definitely issue a warning. Depending on the situation, there's a chance that I issue a warning to both players. Like, if you're both playing TIE Swarms, and both have unmarked dials, and both put all of your dials next to each other's ships, that's on both of you for not maintaining a game state.
Yeah.
Like, one of you needed to put your dials on the cards, even though Ed hates it.
Yep.
Or you.
But again, that's why I mark my dials.
You line them up at the back of the table. In the, you match the pattern, but away from the ships. And so if it was that end, there's a chance that both players get a warning. And in that instance, obviously the warning is meaningless for one of the players. But that would be, and again, I'm pretty hardline as a TO. That would be sounds like both of you are at fault here for being stupid. Like, how's he supposed to know which ones are which? You're both not maintaining a clean game state. Don't let it happen again, and I'd walk away.
And then just let it go.
Yeah. Again, that gives both players a chance to hate me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the in-between those two extremes where it gets difficult. Like I said, if I'm playing Rebels, if I'm playing Scum with my bright orange dials and you're playing Imperials with your blue dials, and you look at Fenro's dial,
like, there's no excuse.
You're definitely getting a warning at the least. I don't know that in the mid game I would be looking to give a game loss. There's a chance that I would set the remaining dials, or that we would continue from what we were set at. I don't know. There's a chance that in that instance, if the players called me over, I might have to give a game loss again. It depends upon the context of it. It's very hard to answer that, Paul. I don't know. As a player, you've got to call a TO. That's your only recourse.
Yep.
Like, if you work it out amongst yourselves and then tell me about it later, I'm not interested. Like, it's not like if he then looks at his opponent's dial again in the next game, I can't just DQ him from the event then, because you didn't tell me at the correct time the first time.
This is the question you were hoping Sean would have been here for to answer, because I'd love to hear what his opinion. We should re-ask this question when he's back on next time.
Yeah. And then, I think that's the best advice. As a TO, I feel like in these instances, you have to step up and be the one that everybody hates. Sorry.
Yep. And then I continue to stand by my standing as a player in a competitive environment. I always try to do my best to prevent this situation from happening in the first place, stating ahead of time, if you're going to keep, I'd prefer you not keep your dials on there. It's too ambiguous on what could be happening back there that I'm not seeing. I'm not accusing you of anything. And all of my dials are marked, so there's no way that you could possibly pick up a dial and not know that it was mine, so that accident doesn't happen. So anything else like that, I'm taking as intentional.
Yeah. Okay.
Great question. Great question.
We do have the bane of my life at a minute, which is a question, not the person. Jimmy, you're okay.
Yeah, you're all right.
Jimmy asks, so Jimmy sent you the chance cubes. He's a guy
Oh, yes, they are right here. Yeah. Are they wood or plastic? Chad and I got into this huge debate.
I think they're a resin, but I don't know. Like an epoxy type. They might be like a plasticky. I had the same thing as well. I don't know. I'll have to message him and ask.
Jimmy, when you hear this, email us. We want to know, are they resin or are they plastic or are they wood? Because Chad seems to think that they're wood. And I'm like, if they're wood, they're a hefty wood that he used.
They're really nice. I like.
They are really nice.
It's good for deciding who's going first of our initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want red or
Exactly.
blue? Anyway, sorry. So he asks, can you explain why reloading a CIS energy shell charge missile, so that's the name, it's energy shell charge, gives a weapon disabled token? So, first off, Jimmy, there's no such thing as a weapon disabled token in 2.0.
Yep.
It's a disarm token. I hate to pick on you, but I've answered this question like 7 or 8 times now, and that constantly annoys me for some reason because I've seen it so much now. There's a disarm token, not weapons disabled. So it's just trying to, and part of the answer and the reason that's important is because you need to separate out what you know from 1.0 and treat that as a separate game. Yeah.
Yes.
So the question comes because energy shell charges have the 1 charge, but they have an action on the card to reload this card. There's no symbology, it's just action, reload this card. So, given that you know absolutely nothing about the game, this is the first X-Wing thing you ever bought was the Servants of Strife pack and new starter set. How would you find out what this card does?
Read the rules.
So you'd look up the entry for reload in the rules reference.
Right.
Okay. So there is only 1 entry for reload, and it is under the header reload. And then it goes on. It has the action symbol next to it. The pilots can reload to rearm ordnance tubes by moving around ammo on their ship. So that's obviously flavor text. When a ship performs the reload action, which is the symbol of the action, and the reason why this is important, I'm going to have to break this down pretty slowly. It's going to be an annoying, like when I broke down the Talon roll ruling thing again. The reason why we stop here is because this is teaching new players how to do stuff, and a general way they would see this is you would see the reload symbol on a ship's action bar, and you're wondering what that does. So that's why it references this. You'll notice all of the actions are worded in a very similar fashion, and it always involves a symbol and a symbology. So while
just like firing arcs.
Yeah. While a ship performs a reload action, it reloads. Okay, that's very important. We specifically use the word reload or reloads, the plural of it, the verb in this context, by performing the following steps. So that would imply that to do a reload action, or by extension reload, you perform these steps. Okay? It's a 3-step process. Step 1 is choose what you want to reload, and it has to have fewer charges than its charge limit. Step 2 is that it recovers 1 charge. Step 3 is that it gains a disarm token. So there is an argument going around that because energy shell charges tells you to just reload this card, that you just recover the charge and do nothing else.
No.
So the reason people
I don't know this game very well, and I knew that when we played our game.
Yeah. So the reason people are arguing this is because they're saying, I'm not being told to perform a reload action. I'm being told to reload this card, which means I just flip a charge. But you're extrapolating information that isn't there. So the only way that reload can mean that you recover a charge is if you perform step 2 of the reload process.
Correct.
We get to skip step 1 because the golden rule of cards overriding basic rules means that we have 0 choice. This action only lets us reload the energy shell charge card. So we skip step 1. We perform step 2, which is recover 1 charge. No, I didn't say you reload the charge, because that isn't a thing that happened. That isn't a game term. Reloading is a series of steps, one of which is recovering a charge. Then step 3 is gaining a disarm token, and then we're done. There is no way to get to step 2 that doesn't lead to step 3. There's nothing on the card that precludes you from gaining the disarm token. We're never told to recover it's not action, recover this charge. It's action, reload this card. The only way that can mean anything is by looking at this section of the rules. There was a really long breakdown that someone was having with Dion about like referencing loads of different things, and I didn't make enough notes, but basically I'm yet to see anyone present any actual evidence or logical reasoning of why you would be able to recover a charge on the card when you're told to reload without referencing this section of the rules.
Yeah, because it's not gaining a token.
Yeah.
Like, there are some areas where they specifically state that explicitly.
Yeah.
You're performing a reload.
Yeah.
A reload is an action that follows these steps.
It's not like being told to acquire a target lock. And even if it were, you would still have to reference it. If you're told to acquire a target lock,
that's actually great.
You still have to follow the steps of, am I in range? Like, unless something else changes the way it's done. If you're just told to acquire a lock, so red line for its ability, for example, is after you perform an action, you may acquire a target lock. So you can do a red barrel roll, stress yourself, and still acquire a lock because you're not performing the action. But you still have to follow the steps of acquiring that lock, so you still have to measure range. If I can't acquire a lock on something outside of range 3.
Across the board.
Yeah, the same logic that would allow you to perform the reload without taking a disarm token would allow red line to acquire a lock on anything on the table.
Yeah, that's a great example. It's a great...
But again, no one's ever actually argued this from a logical standpoint. It's always from an emotional standpoint or a feelings. Like, I don't feel like I should... Like, these vulture droids are pretty terrible. Getting a getting a disarm token feels bad. It means I can't shoot this turn. I need to be shooting all the time or we're terrible. Like, yeah, it's almost like we cost 24 points with energy shell charges. It's
right.
Because they're terrible.
Like, exactly. Imagine that.
Yeah. So there we go. I said to Jimmy I was going to be pretty harsh, but to be honest, I'm pretty tired of just this conversation.
Of this particular question.
Yeah, all you can do is lay out that logic for people, and they either look at it and go, oh yeah, or they just don't want the disarm token. If someone just doesn't want that disarm token, well, nothing's going to make them want it. It's not like, oh yeah, I'll be happy to take it now. And all you can do is just call a TO.
Yeah, because
if you're flying against someone in a casual setting and they insist this, you have two options. You either say, you're wrong, but whatever, it's fine. If you feel like you need to cheat to win, go ahead, I will allow it. And then you opt in. Or you say, that's not how it works. I concede, well done, whatever. I'll go and play someone who isn't a moron.
Yeah.
Those are your two options if you're
who isn't trying to cheat me.
Yeah. So that's the only solution to it in a non-competitive environment is you just either take the onus on you to be the bad guy, or you accept that you would rather play this game than not, or you be alternate. You know what I mean? You either opt in and play however, or you opt out. But that's on you.
Yep.
In a competitive setting, you call a TO, and I don't know of any TO who's going to rule it that they don't get the disarm token. So.
All right. Is any more rules questions for this one?
Just gonna double check.
Mm-hmm.
So there is one, but it's more of a listener question. So
Okay.
we'll
Well,
cover
we'll
it at
save
the
it for the
end.
next segment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it. That one actually went really in depth, and I think killed all the time for the game we wanted to play today, Chris. So
Yeah,
right on
I told you it
par.
wouldn't be a short episode.
All right. So we're going to move on to close out the show then, right after this. All right, so that is going to do it for episode 22. Thanks, Katie. Again, a huge thanks for the cool black hole photos that we're going to be enjoying for years to come. Chris, as you are the only person I have to say goodbye to, and the only person I think we did okay, kind of doing a tandem tonight. As opposed, not that I would not have rather had everyone here. I much rather would have had Chad on drugs as well. I think that would have made a great run, but
Maybe safer for Chad for us to have
probably
not.
let him recover. And then, of course, I am sorry, Miss Sean. I'm always sorry, Miss Sean. But it was good. It was good talking to you. So we do have some cleanup, and unfortunately, all of that falls onto you.
It's okay. So that I don't forget, we had an email question for the last show.
Yep. Let's just get that one out of the way first.
I missed because I'm a terrible human being. It was from Nans, and he asked us, "Hey guys,
hold on. Which Nans? Is that former world champion Nans? No.
No. Nad Mian, Maine. Yeah, I think. Sorry, Nans. I was trying to avoid saying your last name, and then Ed made me.
It's because I can't and won't. I'm horrible at it. That's why Chad was always on the show. It was his job.
Okay, I'm going to read his email now.
Of course.
So, hey guys, thank you so much for all the work you put into entertaining us with this amazing podcast. I really look forward to listening to this every week. I told myself I would only invest in one faction in 2.0, but now, after last week's episode with the talk of Maul, I think I might have to go back on my word. He sounds too good not to play. I'm an Imperial player and always have been. Here's my list. I'm planning to fight a tournament in June. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts. So,
all right, let's pull that up right now. Let's hear the list.
Yeah.
So I assume it's got Maul.
No, this is an Imperial list he's still looking at.
Oh, I was so looking forward to that. Okay, it'll work.
It's good.
It's still good.
So we have 3 Academy pilots, 23 points each, no upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Darth Vader with a fire control system and nothing else. And we have Major Vermeil in the Reaper with a shield upgrade and Director Krennic for 58 points.
All right, hold on. Vader had just
FCS.
That's it. I'm already not liking that.
It has a 6-point bid. So there's instantly 2. I don't disagree. I feel like a 73-point Vader, where you give him afterburners, is a lot more usable than a 67-point. I understand wanting the bid. So there's 2 ways I go with this. Option 1 is that Vader, especially Vader without afterburners, doesn't really need the bid. So when I run in my list, I run a 9-point bid. Vader benefits from that bid, but it is entirely for Duchess.
Mm-hmm.
If I were not running Duchess in my list, I would be happy to play at 200. And I feel like that would be the way I would probably go. If you want,
What was Vermeil running? Just real quick.
Shield upgrade and Krennic. I would
shield upgrade always feels like, hey, I've got 4 points to spend.
But I don't mind shield because it's odd numbered health on the Reaper. So whilst it doesn't actually increase the number of damage you have to take, it gives you. Oh, does it? Am I lying? No. I'm gonna have to double check, make sure I'm not just making that up.
No, it gives you because it only
takes you to 10. It's got 9 normally, isn't it? And it takes you to 10.
Well, if yet another
no, I'm wrong. Yeah, it's even number, so that's a good way to use it. Yeah, I was entirely incorrect. Shield upgrade taking you from 8 hit points to 9. No, 6, 7, 8. It takes you from 8 to 9. Because when you put it on, it doesn't change in Squad Builder. I'm assuming you just built it.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you're
Yeah,
right.
so it takes you from 8 to 9. So it does give you an extra hit before you give up half points. So
Yeah.
that is the correct. I'm happy with shield upgrade there. That's fine. Krennic, I'm never as happy to see anymore. I just don't like him. I don't think he offers enough. So I would probably look at dropping Krennic and adding in Afterburners onto Vader if you wanted the bid. If you like Krennic, I would probably try it at 200 points. Go out and play against some Fenros and Wedges and see how it feels. The only time I think you'd be sad is against Paul Dameron whilst he still has Black One, and against Anakin. Even with the bid, I doubt you catch Anakin because you don't have Afterburners, so you can't boost. So you only have the lateral repositioning from a barrel roll, and the dial's relatively restrictive. So I suppose all of this comes down to I feel like putting the bid on Vader to try and fly him like an ace is a bit of a crutch that you probably don't need. And I'm an advocate of moving last because I'm terrible at the game. But I don't feel like I need to move last with Vader because everyone, it's like I have the same discussions about Fenro. You know it is going to do either like the 4 straight blue or the 2 hard blue. Those are the only moves on his dial effectively. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's moving first or last, you know where he's going to be. So anyone who can't double reposition, I don't think you need the bid on them. Which is why I say Duchess can double reposition. Vel needs a bid because he can double reposition. Paul lets you spend Black One a lot more correctly.
Efficiently, yeah. Probably the word outage.
Yeah. Anakin can double reposition, so he benefits massively from it. But Vader, I don't feel like you need the bid at all. There's an argument for keeping Vader at 67 points. I don't think you necessarily need Afterburners on him either, but I feel like you could spend those points on Krennic and the 6 points you've got left better somewhere else. Like you could bump one of your academies up to Wampa for 7 points if you dropped Krennic and, have an extra 3 dice attack in there.
Do you feel like he's using the academies for basically the blocking? Because I have to admit, as tried as I might, I wasn't able to get TIE Swarm to work, and I think academies are like on the low end of it, and they don't have, especially now in an era where the Vulture droids are out there, and you've got 3 attack die Vulture droids every other turn, admittedly, but there's still 3 attack die Vulture droids. Like, yes, their dial's a little bit better. Yeah, they have a little bit more evade, but they still die like dogs.
So the good thing about the academies is that one, if they're shooting at them, they're not shooting at Vader and Vermeil.
Good argument.
2, if you're blocking with them, it means the ship they blocked doesn't have a token, which turns on Vermeil. So his ability kicks in and lets him damage them more. And they occupy space. There are still 2 dice shots, which admittedly do now do damage in 2.0. So I like the 5 ships, but the issue I have is that there's room to improve the quantity of dice you're throwing out. For example, if we dropped Krennic, that gives us 11 points to play with. We can upgrade one of them to Gideon if you don't like the idea of Wampa. So he'd be shooting after Vader and Vermeil, so to potentially get the extra attack die. Personally, I think Wampa's a really good flanker because it's annoying and you've got to commit to chasing him down. That was also 30 points. Yeah, I would explore not using Krennic as Krennic's the only thing I don't like in the list. And then I think the 6 point bid might not be needed. there is an argument for if you want that kind of bid, you take an actually tooled up Soontir so that you have a double reposition. But I'm still not sold on that. I know Duncan Howard did really well with Vader, Vermeil, and Soontir.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Did you see the list that was sitting beside him in that photo in Facebook, by the way?
I did not. No.
It was double infiltrator.
Oh, yeah. It's good.
I'm not taking any credit in any way, shape, or form, but I do recall saying, like, if you're going to run one, you should probably run two.
I'm coming around. I might have been wrong. I'm big enough to... especially the 4... When you can have a 4-ship list and 2 of them are infiltrators, I'm sort of on board.
Yeah, because it gives that extra firepower just that extra, especially they're just 2 Vulture droids with the energy charges, but that's a lot of attack dice out there.
Yeah. I think so. I'm going to wrap up Nan first, and then we'll move on to that.
Okay.
That's a good topic. But yeah, so I don't know about you, Ed. I mean, you didn't fly too much Vader, did you? You had a couple of games against Chad right at the start, and then moved on.
And I mean, I liked Vader. I really did, but I don't think. I'm trying to remember whenever I was flying him if Afterburners, because Afterburners did come from. Yeah, no, I just never. Fang Republic. Yeah, no, it wasn't out. No, Fang Fighter expansion. Oh, because
it was in the core set.
It was in the core set. That's why. Okay, that's why. I just never rode him with Afterburners, and I was probably flying him wrong, and that's why. Because I was so souped up. That was back whenever Supernatural Reflexes was cheap, and you would just go for that and like, yeah, I'll take the damage to be able to get that boost off. Why not? But no, Afterburners is obviously the clearly right answer.
Yeah. If you want to fly him as an ace, which this build implies with that size of bid, then I think you need Afterburners to make him function like an ace. But if you put Afterburners on him, you're at 200 points, which I think that is fine. Like I say, I think you can use him more as a brawler. Think of... I'm trying to... I'm not saying you don't need to arc dodge with him, but it shouldn't... Using Vader now, if Vader dies, your list shouldn't crumble anymore. If you're building a list that revolves around Vader living, I think you're ultimately going to be disappointed.
Yeah. And keeping in mind, like, his entire 3-band is either blue or white.
Yeah.
So getting that extra boost is going to be really easy on that dial.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, on the double infiltrator 2, I think that the correct way to go with that is definitely with the 2-ship support as well. I'm trying to remember the guy's name now. The person I played, it was pretty eye-opening that if you ignore the vultures, they're just going to throw out 2 energy shell charges every other turn. Whichever one of the infiltrators you turn on is going to be the wrong choice. Because if you go for Dooku, he can jam you and stuff and like recloak and all of that stuff. And Maul can put out 2 shots a turn. So you're running a 4-ship list, but it's actually a 5 3-dice primary attacks every other turn with the energy shells and stuff. So I think that's got legs. I feel like I may have been wrong.
So do you just run it just with a crew, like Grievous on Dooku and Palpatine on Maul, and then the 2 energy shell Vulture droids go for the 9-point bid?
It was hate on both of them.
Oh, it was hate on both of them? I did not catch that.
Title on Dooku.
Oh, and the title was on Dooku. Interesting.
Yeah. So you might not get Grievous in there as well then.
Yeah. You're a point over.
Yeah. There's probably a different crew or something you could put somewhere. But
2 points.
You...
Because I figure if you're at 198, you might as well just go to 200 at that point.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, that's what I know what we did. We put munitions failsafe on the vultures. So if you roll badly, you don't need to reload them.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Make them 25 points. Got 2 points to spend. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm saving that list.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm a little bit sad that it's so good. Uh, uh, but okay. Um, then we have
I won't
listener
say Doja
questions.
so. I swear I won't say it.
Yeah, you can feel free, man. I mean, was it Zach came on the show and rode Chad pretty hard for his Phantom comments, and we had a long discussion on why everyone else thought Chad was wrong. So you're more than welcome. I'll own my being wrong as well, because it's been known to happen.
It has happened. It has happened in the past.
I was right about a lot of things, though.
What I don't like is now I'm going to have to go out and buy 2 of those.
I just borrow one. Buy one, borrow one.
It's a lot of force on the board, though. It's so good.
It is.
It's so good.
You always have it.
Always.
Because hate.
Because of hate.
Okay. So
super efficient list. I like it.
We had a question from Matthew Bundy, which relates to the main topic. What is the one question in the rules reference guide that wasn't addressed, like the double stress question, that you think should have been? So I wasn't really 100% because I think that there's 2 double stress questions that could have been asked, and they're like a little bit weird. So I'm just going to address those for him, and then we'll see. So I believe one of them is a double stress on the end num, and is it like assigned simultaneously? And if they are assigned simultaneously, does Niem get to dump any of them, one of them, or none of them? I believe it was.
We're talking the Rebel Num, right?
No, the Resistance pilot. Where
I thought his brother 10.
No. No, it's Nien Num's the Resistance one. 10's the B-Wing pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that one, I believe they ruled that all of the stress is assigned simultaneously. And then it breaks the game of if Nien can get rid of any of them or not. I'm of the opinion of just let him take one, 2 curs. But I think the community rules reference thing was that he doesn't get rid of any. I don't really know. I can't remember now. The other one is this one's even more interesting. That people are idiots. It's my favorite.
Oh, it's your favorite topic.
So in the rule book, it says that to perform a red action, you suffer a stress and then do the action. And then in the rules reference guide, it says that after you do a red action, you suffer a stress. So neither of those contradicts the other one. As in, neither one of them says you don't get the other stress. So people are now saying that if you do a red action, you get 2 stress.
Wait.
So there's remember, X-Wing is a rule book and a rules reference guide. The wording for one of them is that it's like, again, if a rule book is more flavorful, it's saying that you get a stress for doing a red action. But it says you get a stress and do a red action, implying you get the stress first and then perform a red action. In the rules reference guide, it breaks down the actual order in which everything happens, which is you do the action and get the stress.
Yeah.
But people are saying that, well, this says you get it before and this says you get it after, so surely you get both.
No. I like where you're going there, but no.
Yeah.
Dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Was probably the right answer.
So is there a question? Okay. We might as well shine a light on all of this garbage. I would have liked them to answer how the end phase works, or how bonus attacks actually work. Is you know that all that stuff we spoke about talking about quick draw. By the rules reference guide under the entry for bonus attacks, they happen in the aftermath step of an attack. So it's impossible to actually take a bonus attack ever
in the movement phase.
Yeah, or if Han lets you engage, if Rebel Gunner Han lets you engage at Initiative 7, but it's classed as a bonus attack. then you can't, because you can only do a bonus attack
In the end phase.
in
That's a good point.
in the aftermath step of performing an attack. So yeah,
That's a
so
good point.
we don't talk about it because that breaks a game.
Because you're right. Well, now you've got me wondering.
So, do you want there's more? Did you know that game effects happen before any ship abilities? So it's clarified as like if you perform what's a good example? Oh, there we go. It's a Jake Farrell. If you barrel roll to perform a focus action on another ship, then you can link action into a red boost. The game effect of suffering the stress from that red boost would happen before Jake Farrell could then give a focus to himself. So he'd have to take the focus from a barrel roll, then do a red boost, and then somebody else. Because Jake's ability is whenever he performs a boost or a barrel roll, a ship at range 0 to 1 can perform a focus action. So the game effect of suffering the stress happens before the game ability. But
You mean the pilot ability?
Yeah. So like
Okay.
the card effect type thing. But it also means that all card abilities are game effects, or else they can't actually happen at all.
Right, but isn't there also like the rules on the card supersede? Like there are going to be rules on a card that supersede the rules.
Yeah, like I said, it's fine unless you want it. If you want to read into it all properly.
But they clarify that though. Like they clarify that by stating that there are.
You think they do, but they actually don't.
I could have sworn that they had specifically, like, there's a specific statement somewhere in the reference guide that states that.
But it never says what a game effect is or what a card effect is. Oh God,
I never thought about that. Okay.
Yeah. So the end phase. You know, you can electronic baffle to get rid of the stress in the end phase. If you do that on quick draw, does that happen before or after people remove the tokens? Does that happen if I don't remove my token because I'm waiting for you to take yours off, and then I say I'm going to baffle my stress away, and I've still got my token, but you've not got yours because you've taken yours off? Is my Duke active or not? Because there's no order of operation for the end phase.
Oh, good God. All right, you're right. There needs to be clarification.
Would you like me to carry on?
Oh, my God.
All of this is stuff that you don't shine a light on. This is the festering pit of X-Wing that we just don't talk about.
All right, go ahead. One more. What else do you have?
I might have to look one up for you. I actually posted this one, and me and Chris Allen were laughing about it. I think it might have been the quick draw one. Oh yeah, that was the quick draw one. Do you have to, if you take a damage in the activation phase, you have to wait until the end of a shooting phase to take a shot? Yeah. What else?
But again, I think these all get solved by the fact that the rule on the card.
Oh, this is a good. So this one is actually really good in that it shows FFG's writing is actually good. But the struts for the grappling struts. If you barrel roll off the rock with your grappling struts open because you get your action, because you skip a perform maneuver step, but you ignore the asteroid you're on, so you can still perform an action. If you choose to barrel roll, your struts stay open, but you're off the rock. If you then fly over a gas cloud, the closed side of the card lets you ignore asteroids and debris clouds, but the open side says you ignore any obstacle you're overlapping. So if you fly over it with the struts open, do you still get an action? Because you ignored it when you flew over it.
Huh.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? And then the card only flips after you complete the maneuver. So after you've completed the maneuver, you don't go back to check if you overlap during the maneuver, because you've completed it now, and checking for overlap's part of the maneuver. So do I get my action?
I think the spirit of the rule is probably no, but that's an interesting question.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, you've got some dark corners of this game that I've not even thought of.
Oh, it's good. It's good. I love sitting wait. So all I do is I sit waiting for people to ask these questions, and then me and Chris Allen cackle to ourselves because we've been trying to get the Judge Illuminati group thing to actually talk about them, and then we just get ignored, and we do all the easy questions and never address. So the end phase one is already in there and stuff like that, but these are all in the realms of you either vote for dumpster fire or you just make the game work, and
Right.
99% of the time none of this is relevant, and you do the stuff that just feels right. Obviously Han lets you shoot at initiative 7. It's a bonus attack, but you still shoot at initiative 7. You don't have to it doesn't lead to a broken game state of, well, I can only do this initiative 7 bonus attack in the aftermath stuff of a normal attack. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
We do have actual normal questions. So
That head scratcher's deep thought. I'm gonna be thinking about that for a week from now. Kind of questions.
No. So we have Jimmy Anderson again with first question is he too late? No, Jimmy, you are not.
You are not.
Okay, so how's your interest in Epic after they announced that it was out of a design stage at Adepticon and everything like that? Because I know we touched on Epic last week or
last episode we talked about it. My level is still there. I'm really curious as to what they're going to do with Epic and how it's going to incorporate into the game. Because obviously, trying to forget first edition, it was basically its own separate game. Is Epic also going to, in second edition, also going to be its own separate game with different point values, epic points, how many you can spend, how many ships you can run? Are the ships going to be good? Because in my experience, like, you ran an epic ship, but they died like dogs because you die to a swarm and everything just blows them down. That just never felt thematically correct to me. And then, of course, you have the poor GR-75 that was supposed to be a big support ship. Like, what role? Didn't have any guns. I'm super excited. I'm really curious to see how it goes. I am personally excited. I like the Epic game, but I come from a Warhammer 40k background, and 3-hour games doesn't bother me.
So I was thinking about this the other day about when we played at Nova Open for the narrative and how they had the Star Destroyer and everything. And I really like the idea of, like, epic ships. The battle should revolve around epic ships. The epic ships shouldn't be taking part in the battle per se. So you should deploy your epic ships and then they effectively don't move. And your battle happens around them. So you don't end up having to worry about, like, you should never be running over ships, I don't think.
That was my whole GR-75 strategy right there. Just bowling ball.
It's fun, but are you really like thinking that a TIE fighter pilot is going to, like, crash into his own radar when they're all flying in formation, given that space is infinite in all directions?
The only thing I hope they change, the only thing I never particularly cared for, is that each individual epic ship had not one but two damage decks.
Yeah.
That one always felt weird to me. So I've got some for the front and some for the rear. Why couldn't it have just been one damage deck for the ship? Or why couldn't it have just been an epic damage deck? Why did it have to be so specific to each ship? Little things like that. That's the kind of... Because legitimately, so when you played
To
epic...
be honest, I would much rather they did something like we do with Armada and have just the dials on the bases for the ships now. Or, like, not worry about a deck for... Because that was part... Like, the housekeeping side of Epic was annoying. You should have a big chunky base that has dials on it for like, this is its shields, this is its hit points, this is its energy. Just click them all down or whatever.
Yep.
And just, I don't want to have to worry.
It was elegant the way that they did it. I really did like it. But even if you if you go take a step further, what I always thought was interesting was the fact that that they were not very responsive because they were big ships. So you had to plan in advance which maneuvers they went into. That's a mechanic that I really enjoyed from Armada. If you have a little tiny Corvette, sure, they're short and fast. They can go really quick. You can respond. But those big capital Carillion-sized cruisers,
I get
they
tired
don't, they don't turn on a dime.
I don't know. I don't like epic ships moving around the table because I feel like it slow the visuals of the speed at which my fighters should be moving is warped by how the epic ships move.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's why I think just deploy them at whatever angle you want. They have like unlimited range guns that can shoot at each other. And
but
then they have point defense.
Like in your vision of the game, would they be able to be disabled?
Just make them become objectives. So the entire premise of the game is that this ship's trying to take out that other ship. I don't know. It's an entirely different way of playing the game that I'd have to put more thought into. That I didn't like. I don't like the fact that my own ships die because I'm admittedly I'm bad at the game, so I touch my own ships and that meant they all died. I prefer how it happens in Armada, that if your capital ship overlaps your fighters, you just pick your fighters up and move them because they're not stupid pilots. You're trying to tell me an Academy pilot launches out of a Gazanti and then immediately gets run over by the Gazanti because the Academy pilot's that bad? I'm pretty sure they wouldn't get out of a simulator.
Right? Like, what do you like? The Empire's not going to waste the credits to build the TIE fighter for you to crash it into a Gazanti. Yep, nope, I'm on board.
Then we have one final question from Bruno Puglis. I think I got that right. I'm so bad. I'm sorry, Bruno. I've got one question. Why isn't Ryan Farmer asking 100 random questions in revenge? So the Minox did obviously enjoy our listener questions.
Clearly, it's a great segment.
Yeah, they decided to do an entire show dedicated to listener questions. At which point I decided that I would definitely not just troll Farmer. And I think I asked about 45 questions on this thread. I think I got a roughly even balance of utter garbage and podcast gold.
Did he answer all 45, by the way?
He asked none of my questions. They spent more time talking about not answering my questions than if they'd have asked one of them. So I still got my moment of Minox fame. It's all okay. But no, it was all in good fun. I messaged Ryan as soon as I started. I was like, I'm not even sorry.
I'm not sorry for this.
No. It took me it took a good few hours to think of like interesting questions. The bullshit garbage questions were really easy, but trying to get meaningful questions in there as well, so we had to choose whether to ask them or not. So I hope it was hard.
I hope it made a real difficult decision.
Yeah, but so I did answer this on the Facebook thread. I said, Ryan Farmer is too nice. And he knows that I'd actually answer his questions, and then he'd be ceding me the high ground. And everyone knows that You don't want to give up the high ground, Anakin.
Don't give a. I've got the high ground.
He would underestimate his power. No, it was all in good fun, and it was actually a really interesting show. We had some good questions and some good insights. So check out the Meier Squadron podcast.
Yeah, I often feel that a lot of great discussion comes out of listener-based questions. We had a good 25 minutes on Paul LaRue's tournament questions, so I think they're fantastic. Because of course we're kind of in our own echo chamber as far as what we decide we want to talk about in the show, and to have those little curveballs, those major league sliders coming in, going, "Oh, that's a good question. I've never thought about that before," and to be able to kind of to work it through, I like it.
I do like that moment of panic I have now when we're like 4 hours out from doing a show. So what should we talk about today? Compared to the organized thing we used to have of proper show notes, and I feel like this is a lot more laid back. And
yeah, that's kind of the format of this one, and I think it's a lot more fun. I really do.
Yeah. And we waffle on for hours and hours, and it's awesome.
It still works out.
All evidently, right, Sean and Chad aren't needed to get us to 4 hours.
Clearly not. All right, I think we've waffled on long enough. We do have some housekeeping to clean up as far as closing out the show. A little email addresses and things to remember.
So you can email us like Nan did at lackoffocuspodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on our Facebook page, which is Lack of Focus, or at Lack of Focus Podcast on Facebook. We post stuff on there and try and respond to questions. You can send us direct messages. We'll answer those as well. You can find us on YouTube under DiceHate on YouTube. Check out my DiceHate Facebook page as well. And we are... where else are we? We have a Podbean account where all our episodes go. We have we're on SoundCloud under DiceHate as well. We're on Spotify. Everywhere.
As I say, if there's an audio format, you can find it. You do, of course. I myself prefer the YouTube version because you get to see our shining faces while we're doing this, and the black hole. You're gonna miss the black hole if you're not seeing this one.
We also on Patreon. We've been pretty bad at doing in-focus content, in honesty. But
although I suspect if something comes out of Star Wars Celebration, we might do a real quick one.
Yeah. So we do have a Patreon. We try and throw up stuff on there. You can be eligible to win awesome prizes every month.
So I'm breaking out the dice.
Yeah, no, not this one. That's the next show. We'll change away. So the prize pool is currently the spot, or the plastic double-sided R2D2 Black Squadron. That's what we had added in on the last show. We're adding in an Arc 170 that I had some store credit left over, so I figured why not pick up some X-Wing ships to throw into a prize pool as well.
Heck yeah.
And then, so that gives us... We'll be recording again on the 25th, probably. So that gives us one more show for this month to add an extra prize or two in there. I'm going to a hyperspace trial, so if I do well, probably that swag will get added in as well. So maybe some new templates or something if I can get that far. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'll try and win some more swag, and if you're interested in that, you can hop on the Patreon. We do send out, I think Ed was showing off the target locks earlier. He got his. Yeah.
I'll only bring up the one bag, but I do have them.
Yeah.
These are fantastic. I think we're having an off mic conversation, but these are even better than the lack of focus tokens.
Yeah. So I need to do. I think we'll do a lack of strain token next. I think
that's a good one.
Yeah. But no, it's been good fun. We try and send those out when we periodically. Basically, once I run out of the current set of acrylics, we make something new and send those out. So you are guaranteed stuff as well as access to the prizes. That's something we just do for fun. We never intend to make a profit with our Patreon. We already, even though we're running it at a loss at the moment, we cover a cost for Target Lock Hunger to have their own domain and everything like that. So we try and put your money to as good a use as we possibly can. It's not about us spending it so we can travel to events and stuff like that and flying around the country or anything.
Nowhere close.
No. It's basically to try and ease the burden, seeing as I'm a stay-at-home dad now. So all of your support is very much appreciated. Thank you to everyone. It does really make a difference. And I think that's it. Make sure you again, you don't have to wait for us to post any questions. Feel free to send us to them at any time. We'll get to them as and when we can. If we actually get enough, we'll probably do a listener question show. We'll steal it back from our
Oh, we could steal that one back. Heck yeah.
I think that's me. I think I'm good.
All right, good. All right, Kris, always good talking to you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And it's been nice, emotional bonding two-person cast.
Little tandem kind of worked out just fine. So next episode, I assume we're going to be talking all about Wave 5. We'll probably gush over the Star Wars trailer that hopefully we've seen by this point in time. I had people at work actually picking on me going, oh, what if the trailer starts? What if it drops today? What if it drops today? And like, if it drops today, I will drop what I'm doing and I will watch that trailer like 5 times just to run the same page. So
we'll have Game of Thrones to talk about as well.
Oh, I've got that on Sunday. Can't wait. I was actually trying to convince Chad, even in his drug-induced state, to come to the house so that we can watch Game of Thrones. But then it was pointed out to me that I have to drive him home. And I know each episode's going to be longer, so I don't know how long episode 1's going to be, but I'm like, I
think the first one's only like 53 minutes or something. I think the first one's a short one.
Okay, even at that, I'm not driving to Derry and back at midnight. I'm just not doing it, so.
Thank you once again for joining the Lack of Focus X-Wing podcast. Check out DiceHate Productions for all of the latest episodes, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next episode.
Way too much I almost gave my other one. Until next time, guys, fly